I'm pushing us live. I'm on. Pulling the stream student off.
Yeah, I guess we're already live. You're moving us to the.
Yeah, we're in the. I got out of Discord and now we are live. Hello. Nice to see everyone again today for Makko AI Live. I changed the title up today, so if anyone sees it or if you're new, let me know what you think about the title. I thought free Oreos and s'mores was a really good one, but no, we're messing around with being a little more topical. So the title of this one is making games with AI, roguelikes, platformers, and more, instead of building live with Makko, which I don't know if people are reacting to. So good to see everyone today. Just want to drop a couple of our normal reminders. If you have not joined us in Discord yet, our Discord is discord.gg/Makko, Makko. You can show up and win prizes every week in our contests, make art, make little prototypes, share them on our Reddit, share them in our Discord and on your Twitter or wherever you share things, and we'll go and give you credit and put you in a drawing. And every week we give out some new Steam credits. So come in and join the Discord and win some stuff. And then on Fridays at noon Pacific, we do office hours. So if you want to show us what you're building or ask us about what we're building or just ask questions, we're hanging out and we'll be there. And feel free to ping us anytime in the Discord as well by just tagging anyone with Makko in their name, and we can help you out. So real quick recap. Last week, we did a bunch of build out on a couple of different things. One was I got a bunch of feedback about sector scavengers and how to make it a little more fun. And so I wrote a design doc with Claude, and am now integrating a bunch of that feedback with Makko. So I'll run through that. We have been getting a good response from the video that I produced last week about how to create a Vampire Survivors-like game with Makko. And so I'm going to run through what our next iteration or update to that game is, and the research that went into why I think that this next set of videos is going to be good for our marketing. And then that'll also include an update to what we've built with this Survivors-like game, and some conversation around what we will be building in the future. And then Brandon and Jeremy will take us through a bunch of product stuff. We launched a whole bunch of stuff in the last week that we're super excited about, and hopefully you're excited about. And then we will, if we have any time left after that, we'll wrap it up and come back around and just I have some prototype stuff that I've built out for these videos that I can run through, but we'll see if we get there. So without further ado, I am going to share my screen, and I'll remember to share it as well or add it to the thing. Oh, nope. Screen. All right. Let me know when you can see my Word document.
Looks good.
So I'm not going to read this 13-page document because it's a 13-page document, but I'll just summarize it. Basically, the feedback that I got from Jeremy, from Brandon, from the two guys that I have playtest the game on Mondays was that we've made a lot of updates, but the core complaint has been that it really feels like we just click buttons in the game and play cards, and there's not really a reason why we're playing the cards. It doesn't really make a lot of sense as to why there's any tension or why you would do anything other than play the same card, which is, get the loot, scavenge the loot, and then escape over and over again. And so with that as a problem set, I went to Claude and did a bunch of research, and the prompt that I gave it was that thing I just said to you guys. The game isn't very fun. Getting a lot of feedback from playtesters that it feels like you're aimlessly pressing buttons and playing cards. And so what I'd like to do is dig deeply into games like Slay the Spire, Megabonk, and other popular roguelikes in the last 12 to 18 months, and really dig into what made those fun. And then I gave it the prompt that Sector Scavengers has by design not created any enemies in the game to fight. And the idea is that you're really supposed to be fighting the environment. So with all that in mind, we went and I went back and forth with Claude for a number of hours over the last little bit last week, and came back with a couple of truths that we think are happening, or facts that are happening. And so what we did was we lined up the things that make combat and gameplay in Slay the Spire very fun, and then we identified where those things are lacking in Sector Scavengers. So in this case, every time you play a card in Sector Scavengers, you take some amount of damage. And the original thesis there, or the concept was, hey, you're scavenging through these spaceships, and they're derelict and they're falling apart. And so every time you do anything, the ship might fall apart and die. That was the thesis. It was not fun, and a big part of the reason that we found it was not fun is because it really just it flattened the danger. Like you just always knew you were going to take danger, and it made it so there wasn't any dimension to the danger. So now what we're doing is we've removed that completely, and now it's more of like an RPG turn-based combat style motion or mechanic where you play your cards as the player, and then you end your turn, and then the environment it's not playing cards but takes action, and we are signaling in the same way that Slay the Spire signals with things like the if you played the Slay the Spire, when you're fighting enemies, they will give visual and often physical representations of the thing they're about to do, so that you know, like, hey, this person or this enemy is likely going to poison me next round, and so I want to use the buff that makes the poison go away. Or I know that my enemy is going to be exhausted next round and not be able to defend, and so I want to use my card that has crit against this enemy. And so went through and asked Claude to help me build, some theses and some design docs around that. That's what's a lot of this is that. And then a lot of this other information is really wrapped up in details around how the environment does the damage, how much damage it does. At one point, you start getting difficulty spikes, how it should escalate. So all of that is really wrapped up in the problem that is we don't have a turn-based system right now, and that is making the game incredibly not fun. So then again, this is where I'm not going to read stuff. We can publish this in a blog, I guess, at one point, but it just describes very clearly, like, this is what makes Slay the Spire fun. We don't have any of those things, so we need to fix that. And then we created design pillars based on those things, created a core loop. I went back and forth and argued about this core loop a whole bunch of times. At one point, it tried to add enemies back in, and we might get there. If I can't get this, if this turn of the crank doesn't get us there without enemies, we might just add enemies, but I really want to give it at least one more crank. So we spent a lot of time on this. Hazards was the compromise. So we're going to create this concept of different hazard types. And so, now there'll be things like pockets of pressure or gas that's spewing out that if you screw something up will catch on fire and explode. Or you might be rifling through something and trip and cut your suit. You might get jammed in something, so forth and so on. And there will be cards in the same way that there are cards in Slay the Spire that counter those activities by the environment. But part of the tension and part of the fun will be building your deck to make sure that you can navigate through all those fights. This is just some mapping between my existing game and the stuff that we just talked about. So again, I don't need to read through all that, but all the stuff I just talked about, those tables are mapping the new way the game is going to be played to the old mechanics that already exist. And this is talking about how it's making it simpler and how it's going to go and implement that. Talking about rooms, which are basically encounters, we changed those a bunch, and we made it so that every room has its own archetype, which is the quote-unquote encounter. So the analog here, again, if you've played Slay the Spire, is sometimes you'll go into a room and there will be 3 slimes, and you know that those 3 slimes have a set of moves. You hit them until their health goes down by half, and then they split in half until they are gone completely. And so you know that you need to use a bunch of your low energy cards that do low damage, but a lot of it, so you can kill all the slimes before they do damage. There will be stuff like that where you have to understand the right type of card to play and when. And then we just completely rebuilt the boss fight because it sucked before. And so there's just, and then at the end, there's just some summary here, what we're leaving in and what we can tune once it's in the game. And then I fed all of this, including these questions to Makko last night and earlier today. And now it's going through and making a bunch of these changes. I'm not sure exactly how far it is yet. So we will, look at this. It's deleting so much stuff. Oh my God, that's awesome. So once this is running right now, I've had this running and been messing with it for the last little bit. I'll go into the other game that we're building right now, or the other thing that I'm working on for videos. And then as this finishes, I'll pull it up and we can see kind of do some live development on what's working and what's not. So I'll pause there real quick. I don't know if Brandon and Jeremy have any questions or thoughts or feedback before I move on.
Yeah, I really like the pillars there. So we can, that's kind of what we're thinking for our game design stuff too, is like core verb, and then all like the 3 or 4 pillars that we have to kind of shape the fun of the game. So I think that's good to include here.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I would say is, like, when you're doing a design doc like this, you don't want to focus on like your code. This focuses a lot on your code. It's hard to, it's like the goal is, like, the goal first and foremost is to go, like, do I understand what we're building? And if it's just like, hey, there's this code here, there's this code here, there's this code here, like, you didn't write the code, so that's not going to be useful to you in any way, shape, or form, right? Certainly not useful to other people that aren't familiar with the code. And so that is a useful exercise to do once you have like a design document that you're like, yes, this sounds fun, right?
Well,
Like,
yeah, that's what I did. That's what I was saying. I spent several hours with Claude here. Give me a second. I'll share a different screen here, and I'll run through the process. Where is it? Sector scavengers MVP Git. So yeah, what I did was I went and I gave it the problem statement, and I'll scroll up and show what I'm talking about here. And then it came back and said a bunch
Can
of
you
stuff.
switch? Can you switch to the screen?
Yeah, I'm doing that.
Oh, yeah, gotcha.
It came back and said a bunch of stuff.
well,
And
okay,
then,
so
yeah.
so here's my point: is like, you had to describe to us, like there's no artifact we can read and go, oh yeah, we understand what Tony just said. You're describing a conversation. I think it's really, that's kind of
Well,
my
no,
point.
like this is well, no, I was summarizing, right? Like the first.
No,
this,
I was
this represents like
no,
hours
I
of work,
was
right?
reading as you were scrolling, and most of this stuff is like, hey, there's this code file, there's this thing, you need to change this file. That's what I'm saying. Is
well,
like,
no,
you
but
need
like
to,
that's just one column, right? The rest of the stuff is all theory and concept, right? The column is just like telling. I mean, I can tell it not to add that, but I don't think that's super helpful. Like,
oh no, it
the
is, because like, this is what I'm trying to explain to you is like, so the AI is trying to map it to your code. That's what it's doing. It's not like smart enough to do this stuff, and it also buries the lead a lot, right? Like, it's like, if you scroll up to like hazards and anatomy and all that, like those whole sections were like,
yeah,
here's this code file,
Yeah.
here's this enum, here's this thing. And
What do
so,
you mean?
right,
Like
that's like,
this
that's
isn't
literally,
helpful? Like
no,
this, I understand what this is.
that
Like,
is
why isn't
literally
this
an
helpful?
interface for your code, right? Like, so
Well, yeah, but it explains what it is up here, and then it says this is how it's going to work.
so like, if you were going to present this to a random group of people, you'd never present it in this way, right? Like, that's kind of my point, is like, you want to go through the motions in a clean, consistent way. I mean, and you might get a good output, but like, the reality is like, if you didn't just explain this document and we read through it, it'd probably be very confusing. Is kind of my point. And I was reading through as you were explaining. So I mean, you can say
I
you
guess.
disagree.
I mean,
That's fine.
I just do. I mean, I don't understand how you could not understand that.
Like, literally, the 5 sins are your current code and what they did wrong.
No, they're not. That's one column of a 3-column table.
No, it's like, dangerous role of the play. Here's the code.
Yeah,
what it does to the player.
That's not code. That's a theory description, and what it does to the player is a description of
what your current game and that source code is doing to the player.
It's not. But no, this is saying it's right now. It feels like a slot machine. That doesn't have anything to do with code, and it's not doing anything. It's there's only one safe move. That is literally the summary of the problem that I worked through with Claude. The problem is it doesn't feel like it's fun. Why doesn't it feel like it's fun? Because it feels like a slot machine. It doesn't feel like you're doing anything when you're playing cards. And then it came back and said, "Oh, this is where all that logic lives that you're talking about." I mean, this is like literally there's hours of conversation here of this.
I understand that, and I'm just saying,
like you are the lead designer for MegaCrit.
If I was reading this blind, there's a lot of stuff bearing the lead, and I'm not sure what I'm supposed to pay attention to. And I'm telling you, the AI, like, if you were to feed this document now as it is to the AI, it's not going to evaluate phase by phase or anything like that. It's going to go, oh, this is the authority on exactly what I know needs to happen. And
but Makko didn't do that, right? I fed this to Makko, and I told it to go read the stuff, and then it came back with a plan that has like,
you fed this document to Makko or something else?
No, I fed this document. I put it in the document where, sorry, I'm clicking around. I realize I'm only sharing the one. So I fed the Word doc to Makko as an MD. I went to Makko and clicked the plus button,
So
and then I said, go read the MD.
I'm telling you, as the person that wrote the software, what it's going to do is it's going to read at the map you have. I mean, you can disagree with me all you want, but I'm telling you how it works. It's going to read the file you gave it and take these maps and just put a plan together to do exactly what these code files say. And so you're not giving.
Well, no, but it came back with a plan that I rejected a couple of times and then went back and forth with because it said stuff that I didn't agree with.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I think what Jeremy's saying here is like it's going to use
if you're
like
saying,
some
like,
of that
just don't,
pseudocode.
like, I can just tell the AI from now on, like, don't ever write code in these docs. If that's bad for Makko.
You should. I mean, no, it's not bad for Makko. It's bad for game design. You should not write code in your game design docs. That's what I tried to start out with, and you're just like getting really combative. I was saying you have a lot of code.
Well, I mean, you have a lot
of code references and things.
I watched
which
Thomas
makes
Brush
it
a bunch. I watched Thomas Brush a bunch, and this is like almost exactly what he does.
Okay.
Like I watched a bunch of videos because I'm using this for like video stuff, right? Like that was actually what I was going to go into next. I spent a bunch of time with Claude, talking to Claude about how to make videos, and a big part of what it was talking about was, hey, if you're gonna go through and do a complete redesign on your game, because that's what this is. I'm ripping out the everything in the game from the core loop perspective and trading it out. And so it was like, if you're going to do that, you should show people like that the AI knows your code and where this stuff lives. But again, if that's just like wrong.
Oh no. So you're not giving Makko a chance to use its logic. You did all this in Claude. This is great if you're just using Claude code and you're doing all those things. But when you transfer it into our system, it's fine. You can do you. We're trying to show people how to, best way to use Makko. I'm trying to give you, we want to bring design artifacts, not.
Well, yes, that's what I'm saying. Like, what would you like? Again, like, so that's what I'm asking. Like, is the answer to that, like, tell it don't put the code in the
answer to that is to do a design artifact, not a code mapping artifact, which is what I've said like 3 times, right? So you've done a code mapping artifact of here's a mechanic, here's the code, here's what it needs to do, which is essentially what Claude Code will do and launch into its implementation.
But it starts with the fundamental rhythm, which has nothing to do with code.
Yeah, I think it has both in here. And so, like, if we just rip out like some of the pseudo code in there and just
which is what I was asking.
I have said like 3 times. You buried the lead. It's context overload. You're getting very, very angry at this feedback.
I'm not angry at the feedback. I just don't think it makes sense.
Okay, well, you're the expert now, so you go for it.
I mean, you sound like you're the one getting angry.
No, I mean, because you're getting very aggressive. I'm trying to give feedback and you're getting very aggressive that I'm wrong.
I'm not.
I'm trying to explain to you that context overload, doing too many focuses, honestly doing this all at once, if you handed this entire prompt, like it's just a whole lot. It's hard for a human to review, which means it's going to be hard for an AI to review. That's all I'm explaining.
Well, that's what I want to know is like, what I heard from that was it's hard for a human to review because there's a bunch of code stuff in here and I should tell Claude to remove the code stuff. But if it's more than that, because like the other stuff that we've talked about with design docs is all in here, the verbs that we use, the intent, the references to the design pillars.
Yeah, it's important for documents to be crisp and not have a bunch of extra fluff. So, and this is what we see all the time with AI artifacts is there's about 50%. Right, there's about 50% what needs to be there, and there's about 50% which should be cut. And by having that 50% that needs to be cut, it actually makes the AI perform way worse.
So you're saying that I already did cut it by more than half, and you're saying I should cut it more.
Yeah, I mean, so like if we were to read, ask this a different way, and maybe you should just have us review it offline. But like if me and Brandon were to read this, would we have gotten the same narrative that you explained to us verbally? Because you need to remember, you're handing this to the AI verbatim. So if you have to give us a narrative that's not in this document, the AI is not going to get that narrative.
I mean, that is my point. This is what I said at the beginning.
You did say things that were in the document. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you also added a lot of stuff that's not in the document when you were explaining. That's kind of my point.
But That's what I'm saying. I don't think I did. What did I add that wasn't? That's not here. That's what I'm saying.
You were
That's what I
going
need to
section by
understand.
section. You were saying things that did not exist in this doc. I was reading while you were going, and you'd be like, "Oh, there's this and this."
Well, yeah, let's
and
do it again
there's
so you can
this.
tell, like, call it out where I did it wrong. So, like, what I'm saying is, like, if I was reviewing this, I would say, hey, like I did, we're trying to make sector scavengers more fun. The feedback that we've gotten is that it feels like you're just playing cards for no reason. And the reason that it feels like you're playing cards for no reason is because there's no consequences, right? And so the part of the reason for that is because all the cards do the same thing. They all do damage, right? And so we had to fix that. And then the way I would summarize that if I was doing this with an AI, which I did, is in Slay the Spire, the fundamental rhythm is you know what you see what's gonna happen.
So this is a
you spend a
perfect
constrained
example
hand.
because everything you just said to describe it to humans is not in the document.
It's
right?
well, no, this is the summary of what I just said.
You should move on because you're clearly missing the point. Like AIs are very explicit, and you're saying a thing, and then you're like, I summarized it in a completely different way, but I'm going to explain it to you in this way because it makes more sense, right?
Well, no,
like that is the example. That is the example right there.
But I explained it to Claude that way, and then said, "Hey, I'm going to take this back to Mako.
Yes.
Give me a summary that will work for Mako."
And it's no longer in the document. But you believe that's the best way to explain it. So you're
no. I don't believe that.
So why did you say it?
Sorry, because I said that to. That's what I'm pulling up. Oh, I don't have. Wait, I can't.
No, I believe you said it to Claude. I mean, I don't need to see. I that's not in contention. What I'm saying is you're explaining
so that's what you're saying is don't do that, right? Don't ask Claude to summarize
there's
it.
a bunch of context not in your document that needs to be in the document to understand the document. It needs to be in the document.
Yeah, and Claude said, and that's what I'm saying. Claude said this summary has that context, and you're saying
So why don't you just read the summary? Why do you feel like this isn't a gotcha? Why do you feel the need to explain it in that way if the summary covers it?
Because Jeremy, and this is where I'm saying, like, I'm not angry, but you're getting real combative. The thing was 45 pages before, and so I literally told Claude, and this is a pretty, I think, accepted way to do this. At least I've watched videos about it. Said, Claude, this is a 43-page document. It's completely unusable. I need you to go through and act like Mark Twain, who said, if you can't write me I didn't have time to write you a short letter, so I wrote you a long one. And make this as pithy as possible, but make sure you keep all the context that's required for Mako, which you should understand. And I said this for Mako, which you have context about to understand what we're trying to accomplish. And then it came back with this, and I read this, and I said, oh yeah, this is like what I said. And then it gave me more details around and the reason I felt confident that it understood what I said is because it gave me more details around specifically where the things I'm talking about. That's why I thought it was a good thing. Our Loki, I was like, oh yeah, it definitely understood what I said before. The card scavenge was doing 15% hull damage. Now it's not. Risky loot was doing this.
Think about if you're writing it, forget AI, because how humans read documents is how AIs read documents. It's not any special thing. AIs are trained off human data, right? So what a document is good for human, document good for AI, and this is where people fuck up with AI a lot.
Well, and that's where I would question if you read 3 paragraphs, and they said. Slay the Spire is fun.
If I went into Amazon and someone had to explain each paragraph, and the paragraphs did not self-explain what they wanted to communicate, I would call that a bad document.
Well, but
that's my point.
We're not in an Amazon meeting. We're on a live stream talking about how I designed this thing, and so I was summarizing this large document that's 13 pages.
Yeah. So you put the exact summary how in your own words into Claude, and Jamie's just saying put that in the doc instead of into Claude. So then when AI reads
but then I can't feed that to Mako because it'll be. I mean, I'm not going to write a 43-page doc, but it'll definitely be longer than 13 pages. The way I write and feed things to the AI is more verbose than that. That's why I need the AI to make it shorter. Even Amazon docs, you'd write a 6-page doc, and then the appendix would be 6 or 7 pages.
Right.
And you wouldn't feed that to an AI.
That I agree, but you wouldn't say you need to read the appendix to understand the document. That's my point. I feel like we needed your summary to understand exactly what we're saying. That was the feedback.
But that's what I'm trying to understand is how that thing you just said, what is not clear about this is why Slay the Spire is fun, and this is what Sector Scavengers does not do. And that's why it's not fun. How is that not clear? That's what I'm asking. What is not clear about these 2 paragraphs?
Why? You're hyper focused on these 2 paragraphs. I was talking about the entire document. We use this as an example because you started going back through, and the way you described it was entirely different than what the copy was written as. So I was questioning that. I am not hyper focused on these 2 paragraphs. I actually think my original feedback was having all these code blocks made it incredibly hard to read, too much context overload. It was like not great. That was the original feedback, and we've now devolved to this point. I was just saying I think you should have your actual design artifact, not your code plan that you're reviewing first.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I think this is a design artifact if I strip out the code. Like, I don't understand. That's what I'm saying. I don't understand the difference between this without code and a design
artifact. To you that AI has context overload. So if you put too much context in the AI, and that's what I'm saying, you're kind of missing the entire point. I've said that like 5 times now.
Well, no,
right?
but I'm asking you, like, what should I take out? That's what I'm asking.
Well, absolutely the code mapping, which I've said about 5 times now.
So we agree with that. Agree with. Well, okay. So the code mapping completely. Like, so we shouldn't say, like, there are these cards that do this thing in the game right now, and now they need to do this thing.
Well, so you've now decided like code tags. That's not useful, right? Oh, here's the code enum. Okay.
Well, this is the tag that exists. Like, this is a category of card.
Okay, but like
so is it better if it just says like card category? But I mean, even though it is the tag.
No. I mean, you're literally. So what I would just say is like the design. Once again, you're mapping the old code to the new. I'm saying like, so it's important to have the old to understand what you're doing and what you want to change. But your design artifact is not like the design artifact you should feed. This may even be an interesting exercise to do. But like, if we're trying to like evaluate the new design, we don't actually need to know the old design. We just need to like read through the new design and go, oh yeah, this sounds fun.
But
like,
I did
that's kind of.
And then this is the doc to go make that happen.
Yeah, well, we did. Like, my point is, we didn't get to review it, so we can't provide feedback on the design because this is now a code mapping exercise. This is a previous concept to existing concept exercise. The feedback was it would have been great to have a design doc we could review to go, oh yeah, this sounds really fun. That I mean, literally,
that last thing you said is the thing that makes the most sense to me. I still think that if you read this, you would understand why it's fun, but you disagree, and so I'm going to remove the code stuff. But I don't.
I mean, again, and once again, you can do whatever. I'm saying as a reviewer, there is a lot of shit in here that buries the lead of what the new design is. That is my feedback to you. You don't have to agree with it. As a reviewer, as someone else that would read it, that is my feedback. You can ignore it. Like but like that's the feedback. I would not be able to review this and like have really crisp definitions of the new fun because I would be going through oh, we need, here's this code mapping. Here's the old concepts. Here's the new concepts. Assume like to review a design artifact, you shouldn't need to know the old concepts. Like I just want to review what the new thing is, right? Like, in fact, I'll take it a step farther. You don't need to know any of this in Claude, and you should never even need to know these like previous mappings to new mappings, because if you have a crisp design artifact, you should just be able to drop that into Makko, and Makko will roll with it, right?
Yeah, I think a good example is like what the design document that we did for Rift Runners, like that last iteration that we had, didn't have any code mapping or anything, and then we were able to put that into Claude itself, but in this case we put it into Makko, so it would parse that and do its work.
Oh, look, we got a bunch of people. Or no, we have one person just talking about a bunch. Who's glitched through the ground? Nice to hear you. 50% of my design doc should be cut. Not happening. I don't know who that is. That's not me, by the way, whoever's talking in Twitch.
I mean, people can keep writing long ass design documents, but in every iteration of every world ever, longer docs usually are not better.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. That's where I don't. My only context is the studios I've worked at. The Shrapnel design doc was 80 pages long, and
Shrapnel launched a really fun, great game that.
Well, no, we spent $100 million and didn't make a video game.
Yeah, you spent $100 million to write an 80-page design doc, and it's like, and do a bunch of marketing, right? Like it's.
Well, yeah, but all those people that wrote that doc, like the guy who wrote that doc, is literally running Dead by Daylight right now. He's the EP for Dead by Daylight.
Sure, and. The guy that wrote EverQuest is doing that FPS,
actual,
and it's amazing, right? Yeah, we all love it.
We promoted it on the stream last week, so.
Oh, I mean, people can go try it. Just go. I mean, people should try all these small time games and provide feedback. I'm just saying, in especially with AI, simpler is almost always better.
So if you were going to tell someone how to make a design doc, because like. literally I fed this multiple design docs that I've acquired throughout the course of my life. I didn't feed it the shrapnel one for a whole bunch of reasons, but they're all between 15 and 30 pages long. The 30-page ones are really hard to consume. And this is what Claude came back with. So what source material would you use to show someone like, hey, this is a good design doc. This is what you should build.
So for AI, there's kind of
do you want to share your screen so you can walk people through this?
No, I mean, I don't know that walking through this, because there's not actually single artifacts are generally not great either. So in reality, you need different artifacts to provide different context at different levels. So
wait, but before you said you wanted to review you thought we would review, it'd be helpful to review a design artifact in this.
Yes, which is the
design artifact.
So the game design artifact. So you start off.
Yeah, where would we find a good example of that? Is what I'm asking.
Well, I don't know. Like, you didn't ask me to go prep one. I mean, if well, but
you have to know what a good one looks like, because you're telling me what a bad one looks like.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know what good PRDs look like. I know what the good process is like. Do I know what a perfect game design document looks like? No, but I do know what bad AI artifacts look like.
Well, yeah, can you show us
I only mess with AI artifacts all day. So like the process that I would follow for anything is, well, I'm not going to show you our internal PRD documents, so we're not going to do that. But so the process you start for anything is you get your requirements. In the context of game, that's a game design document. You review your requirements, you sign off on them, you codify them, you stick them in. After you get your good game in the context of game design, you have your game design artifacts. Then what you're going to want to do, one-shotting a game design artifact is never going to happen. Like Fable, you might get close, but like it's just not good. It will get you something playable. It will not get you something good. So then the next iteration is you take your codified game design artifact that can always be referenced back, and you create a phasing technical architecture. And then once you have that plan, then you design each phase independently. And you implement each phase independently. And that's where it will dive deeply into the code. The thing is like, that is the better way to do AI development. The problem is it requires a lot of extra time and iteration and whatnot, right? And so like, if you just take massive documents and feed them to the AI, right? Like even Claude on their subscription has a 1 million context limit. Like Claude's not going to be able to make an entire game that's like useful or good in 1 million tokens, right? Like it'll be able to produce something in 1 million tokens.
Well, yeah, and this isn't meant to be a one shot, right? This has phases in it, which it fed Makko to create phases. Right, like that's the idea, but like but
it's all smashed together in one. It's confusing. You can't iterate on one without the other.
So like, again, but like if you're watching the show, if you're watching the show and you're not a software developer, what would you do?
I would,
other than just listen to the words, like play the thing that you just said over and over again.
I would play, like, very simply, I would make a game design document and then do a design with a. So if I was just in Makko, I'd do a game design document that's just describing why the game's fun and whatnot, and then I would do just to have it generate a technical design off that, and then that technical design should include phases, and then you can just go say, hey, go implement phase 1, and then the AI will take care of referencing phase 1 back
but there's a design doc that does not have any phases in it, and then there's another doc that has phases.
The design doc is, why is your game fun? What are you doing? What are the mechanics? And it does not define every specific enumeration of your game. Because the reality is like, I'm sorry, and I don't believe this, any game designer that thinks they designed every single enumeration of their game before they started their game is a fucking liar and wrong. That's not how software is built, straight up, period. And there are game designers that are very conceited that think they can do that. What actually happens is you have like a baseline of, here's generally what we want to do, and then as you implement each feature, you go play them, and then you're going to iterate on them, you're going to change them, you're going to get to what feels good, right? And so your game, you should think, and this is why these bigger documents and all these things are actually really bad, is because your game design document is like, it's more of like and your PRD and whatever your design, your product design artifact is more of a hypothesis of what's going to make your product good. It's a hypothesis of what you need. And then as you're implementing each phase, you need to go test it. And so that's why you can simplify it. Just have, like, you should
yeah,
also be able to read. And here's another thing. You should be able to read your document in 10 minutes and understand what we're building. Like, the reality is,
that's what I'm saying. I did, and I do. So that's what I'm trying to get to, right? I have this broken
you did
down.
After hours of conversation, you were able to read a document and understand.
Well, I was able to write a document after hours of conversation that I could read and understand, which I thought is the problem. Like, you just said you can't.
No. So, like, you should be able to give it to a reviewer. They should be able to read it in 10 minutes and understand it. Like,
well, we didn't do that exercise at all, though. You read it on my screen as it was scrolling.
I know. I'm saying that is the target, right? Like, the target is, you should, like, we're not making MMORPGs. We're not making games with like thousands of systems. And if you are, you should not have it in a single artifact, right? If you are doing an MMORPG,
like 3 systems, right?
If you are doing an MMORPG, you would have like thousands of design artifacts, to be completely honest. And you'd have a team of like all these different people working on different design artifacts, and then you would have like levels to your designs, right? You'd have like the overall design, like, why is World of Warcraft fun? And then you would have like, okay, like, what about night elves? Like, how are we going to make this fun? Or what about dungeons? Like, how are we going to make, like, you would have design artifacts for each and everything. And then you'd have a design artifact for every single dungeon, right?
Well, yeah. And going back to Shrapnel, which again, didn't make a video game and made it spend $100 million, but that was the 80-page doc. The 80-page doc was an amalgamation of like,
which is not useful to any AI or human or anybody that's ever existed. That's my point.
Well, except for the investors, but yeah.
Yeah. Like the point
of that gave them $100 million appreciate
yes.
it.
Yes. The point of oh, it's impressive. You have 80 pages. Pre-AI, that probably was impressive. Post-AI, that's not impressive, right? Like, AI will generate you 1,000 pages if you want it, and they might mostly make sense. But that's kind of the point, right? Like, the point is that each design doc very articulately and cleanly and concisely describes what you need in the simplest form possible, and then you build on top of that in different artifacts. And by mutating the clean, concise artifact, you can never go back and reference it, because now you have all these code mappings, or you have, too many systems, or whatever it is. So
should we just like not try to teach people how to do this? Or is there a good way for us to show people how to do it? Well, because like I'm the type of learner that if I watch this video right now, or if I was watching this stream, there's no way I'd be able to go do the thing that you're saying. Like, I need someone to be like, hey, this is the thing that you need to do, and like, here's what good looks like. Right.
So yeah, I mean, I could absolutely, if you want me to walk you through, not on the fly, like on like what 30-second request, show me something. Yeah, like, we can walk through a process. I can show you, like, if this full design, like,
well, yeah,
if we want to collaborate, we can do something and do video on it, and I can show you, like, yes, we can do that. Like, well, I don't know why you're going to like, no, we shouldn't do it. Like, no, we're not going to do it, when you're like, hey, show me this thing right now. Like,
well, no, sorry,
I'm just going to say no.
when we've talked before, you've been like, hey, the stream should be like organic, and we should just be working on stuff together. I see this as like, you had a feedback. My question is, great, I'd like more feedback and an example, and can we do that? And your answer is like, no, not on the stream. But that is how I think we want this thing to work, is like, stuff comes up, we ask if we want to work on it, and if we can, we can, and if we can't, we can't. But again, if that's not the way, that's more organic and not scripted, but I'm happy to not talk about that either.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to iterate on it now and I can walk you through it, like, yes, we can do that. Like, if you're asking for good examples within 30 seconds, no, that's not happening, right?
Well, I was asking for both. I was like, if you ask me like, hey, can you show me like a good example of like a SEO strategy or a paid media strategy, I can go pull up like 7 websites, right? And be like, hey, here's SEO Moz for SEO, and here's Salesforce for CRM, right? And these are the places you go to learn about SEO clustering and stuff. And then if someone was like, hey, can you show me one of those? I'd pull up a marketing doc, right? And be like, hey, this is where I put this into here. And so that's what I was just trying to figure out, is like, you're saying like, hey, this thing sucks. How do we show people what not suck looks like? And if that's an example that exists, great.
To be clear, my feedback was this would be confusing for me to read.
Well,
and
sure.
And you took that as it sucks. So
sure, sorry. This is well, because sure.
So me saying I read through it while you were explaining, and it was confusing, and the words you were saying didn't seem to align with what I was reading, or I couldn't very quickly mentally map. There was a lot
of this is the way you should, and if you want to make something good, and like that's what I mean. So like,
well, yeah, there is a lot of like what I found works in AI development.
No, but that's not the way you said it, right? You said we wouldn't present this at Amazon. Is not that's not the way
yes,
AI
I used that
development
as
works.
an example at one point. I mean,
Yes, and so that's what I'm saying. But like, and all I'm saying is like, I think
it
we
is
should.
an example to. I was trying to explain that the way it is presented is confusing to read. That was like the entire goal. I'm using examples because you are an example learner. I explained the concepts. You argued with them, so I was looking for examples. I did not go straight to Amazon. I use that as like the 6th example, dude.
Well, yeah, but like what I'm saying is the qualifying stuff. Like, there's a lot of like, hey, I wouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. That's what I mean by sucks, right? Again, like the whole conversation. Was
Well,
like,
you should, like in a design review, when like when we're trying to review as the new game design fund, you shouldn't have a bunch of code mappings. Like
sure.
I will hold true to that. Like I can't read your document. But that is what you keep going back to it, and that was the statement, dude. You keep going back to it, and that was the statement. The statement was there's a lot of code mappings in here. Your first response was no, there's not. And then it was like, oh, I guess we could take it out. And then it was, now you're saying my doc sucks. Like that was where we started. That was what I was trying to say. Like,
well, that's fine. All I'm saying is I want to help people understand what good looks like, and sucks, not sucks. What something you could understand looks like. I guess if we don't want to use.
Yeah, I did not use I don't think I used the word sucks, not sucks.
No, you didn't use suck, not sucks. I was saying I interpret like when you say things like, if you want to make something good, this is how people do it. 80 when you reference design docs from games that suck, right? Those are qualifying statements that make me as a human feel like the thing you're looking at is low quality or sucks.
So very, very simply, I'll say it again. AIs are trained off human data. So if it's hard for a human to understand, or a set of humans, because everybody's going to be different people are going to want different things. That's absolutely true. But if you can't go to like 5 humans and most of them understand it, the AI will work through it, and it will use a lot of thinking tokens, making assumptions, trying to think through it and do different things. But you want things that humans can understand. That's what works better with the AI, is things humans can understand, because it's trained off human data, right? Like it's like literally what OpenAI and Anthropic are trying to do, like right now, by making their models smarter at this point, is they're trying to trim bad data from their training sets. That's how they're making the current models smarter, is they're going through GitHub, they're going through all these design artifacts,
probably erasing
whatever.
half of Reddit.
Yeah, and they're just saying delete, delete, delete. This is bad, delete. And there's like humans making those decisions. And how are they making those decisions? By reading the things, or by, maybe they have some automated process that like rates the complexity or something, right? Like the AIs are good enough that they can, rate complexities, have people review, automatically remove. But it's all like, that was literally what my initial feedback was, is there's a lot of stuff in here that's burying the lead. And it's just context that's not needed to review the design. That was the original feedback.
I think that is good feedback too, where it's there is a lot of like different types of context in here that don't necessarily need to be here for the initial game design.
So if we don't want to like recreate something that is good from the ground up, why don't we just start removing stuff from this thing? Because what I would like at the end of this segment for people to understand is like, if this isn't the thing, what is the thing, without having to go back and listen to the 5 or 10 minutes of you talking about it over and over again. Because I don't think that would be helpful for most. I don't think most people would do that, right? I don't think that's how people learn or consume content, and I wouldn't do that.
Well, I mean, the reality is if like they're also not gonna translate a design template from a video stream to an AI, right?
Like, well, no, but that's why I'm doing this, right? Like this whole conversation is the point of what I'm doing right now. I just want to get the end state that I want to get to, is because I had no illusions that I was going to pull this up and you guys are going to be like, this is fucking great, let's go. But what I want to get to is this is what I wrote based on the feedback last week, which was the things I'm not going to say again that are in this first paragraph. I produced this thing, which I then fed to Makko, and then you had a bunch of feedback on this thing, which sucks, doesn't suck, could be better, needs to be different, needs different stuff in it. I want people to be able to end this segment with like a clear vision of what are the things that like we should pull out. And if you're like, hey, we shouldn't do that this segment, we should do it next week, and I'll send you a paragraph to feed Claude and get you a thing that is better than this, that's fine too.
Oh, no,
but that's what I want to get to.
We can iterate on this segment, but that's my point, is no one's going to watch a video and go like, oh, here's the design artifacts. If we want to provide artifacts, we should go templatize some artifacts and we can provide
yeah,
it, and you can
what I was-
provide that template. You can provide the template, the prompt, all that stuff, and people can just grab it and use it, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I'm doing. Like the last video that I did, like the blog that I published for the last video, it's a kit. Like that's the strategy is like when we publish videos now, we're publishing them with a kit at the end that is like, hey, here are the 7 prompts that I used to make this thing, and like a, you know, where they live in Makko or Claude, right? So the idea is that like when I write the blog for this thing that I'll make a design doc video, right? I'm gonna write a blog with it that is like, here's all the shit that we did. I would have honestly used this, which I'm glad that right, like we're not going to use this. So I mean, like we will use this, but like whatever this ends up being is the point. But like this is it's not really the blog post. The blog post can be like 3 pages long, but the end of it is meant to be like, here's how you would go recreate this.
yeah,
like that's
yeah,
that's like at the end of this, the last thing in this is 8 prompts, right? So yeah, so like let's just go like, let's start here, right? So like it sounds like I'm gonna leave the design plan stuff, but this stuff, okay, no, that's just context. This is where so Makko definitely doesn't need this because that's where it is in the Git. The diagnosis is still, I think this is still accurate. It feels like you're just pressing buttons. Do you think we should add?
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
And then this, just like get rid of this is what you're saying. Delete column.
Yeah, I wouldn't do where it lives. Because also the thing you need to keep in mind is, so what I heard you just say is you can't do any of this in Makko. So that's another thing, because
wait, what
you
do you
did
mean?
this all in Claude code. Claude, you checked your GitHub out in Claude. You did this mapping in Claude. So I also don't think it's great to provide a tutorial of like we don't have deep research right now. So reaching game design, all that stuff, I'll concede you can do in Claude, but I think you can do all of this in Makko. I don't think you need to do a lot of this stuff outside of Makko.
You mean like the mapping and stuff?
Yeah, you did and that's also why I want to get to like the game design, is like you should be able to take your game design doc in and reference that in Makko, and that's all you need, right? Like Makko should be able to do the rest.
Okay, well, so like let's look at this then. So like this is rooted in what you just said we shouldn't do. And so I want to understand if we should remove this. This is rooted in, we have a game that is not fun. We have an example of a game that is fun. Here are 5 reasons why our game is not fun that are rooted in the reasons why the other game is fun. So would you flip this and be like, here are 5 reasons that Slay the Spire is fun, and here are how we would make them exist in Sector Scavengers.
So yeah, like so like let's assume we didn't already, this is an interesting case because we already have a game and we're trying to redesign the entire game. I don't think that's like, it is a use case, but I don't think it's probably the normal use case. The normal use case would be, I want to make a game like Slay the Spire. Here are the ideas I want. Let me go explain all of them. Let me like talk about them, et cetera, et cetera. And so it would be more of and this is where I was saying the game design document versus a comparison of what you have. The game design document is more of like, here is like what we think fun is. And it's all positive framing around what fun is. Let's learn from these other games. Here are some concepts we think are fun. And then that's where I was saying you take that as your like flag in the sand, and then you compare it to your game. Because
so this is what I want to double click on this real quick, because I do think so the thing you just said, I think is, well, not I think, the thing you just said is the use case for everyone who's starting a new game. Like regardless of whether or not you've made a video game before and you're using Makko or you're using something else, the thing that you just said is true no matter where you're making a video game, right? What I would want to push back on her question is, like, I think, sorry, if I am our hobbyist user, then the experience that I've had, or the observation that I've had, is that I will create some sort of, like, I created an artifact for the first Sector Scavengers when it was an idle game that had the different mechanics and stuff, and I've been like evolving it since. So in a world where, again, like, I think we want, and from our business perspective, just thinking about from a business perspective, like, we want people to be working on games for months and months and months, and so they are going to have design docs that need to evolve and be iterative, right? And so like I want to get a little bit of that too. Or if we're like, hey, that's actually like, if you get to that point, like like you made your prototype and like go make something new, that's also good information to have. But I think I do think that I think it's 2 exercises, right? I think there's an exercise
what I
we
would
haven't
say.
done. Yeah.
Like, and I'll be completely honest about this. If you're already to the point you have a Claude Code subscription and you're already to the point that you know how to check things into Git and you know how to check them out locally to run against Claude code, why are you using Makko? Like, honestly,
Well,
like
for me,
why are you
yeah,
using Makko if
well,
you can do all that?
for me, it's the asset integration, right? Like if I want to go make assets on Makko and then use them in Claude, I have to then, like in mass, I have to then move them to a folder on my local drive and then ask Claude to go find them. And like, it's funny that you're asking this. I literally just did this earlier today because I had not set up Git for this yet, and it took. I should show you, but like Claude actually couldn't do something because the session that I was in when I started didn't have the right Git hooked up to it, and so I had to actually like restart a whole conversation and then hook that up to the Git. And so all that to say, like I did that because I was trying to make make this video and make these changes quickly and take the feedback and do the research all in one spot. But I think it's the same answer, right? Like the reason you're saying you would use Claude that way is because it's all in one spot. But for someone like me, it's not all in one spot. If Makko it is easier for me to transfer. Sorry, it's easier for me. I don't know if it's more effective. We'll find out. For me to transfer words from a piece of paper into Makko Markdown documents and the code editor than it is for me to organize assets into folders and move those onto my local drive and tell Claude how to access those. Like that second workflow is harder for me than getting words from Claude and putting them into Makko.
Yeah, I think that's a valid use case. A little integration. Makko makes it easier to integrate.
Like, yeah, just like move the assets around. And well, especially with the change that probably wasn't true like a month ago, 2 months ago, but all the changes that we've made recently have made asset integration just like really crisp. And maybe it's not even 2 months ago, maybe it's like the last couple of weeks, but like the ability to like resize everything in the code studio. And like, I'll give you a great example. The Survivors game that I'm working on, the doing all the resizing for the assets that I did, and I'll pull that up here and show it real quick. Doing all the resizing for the assets that I did would have taken me like hours, hours and hours and hours if I was using Claude, because they don't have this thing, right? So like if I was using Claude, I literally just did this earlier today. My gems were way too big. That's a piece of feedback that you guys gave me, and so I made the gems a lot smaller. And then I normalized all the gems and the projectiles against the same size. And then I went through and I normalized all of my. I'm sharing Code Art Studio.
Yeah.
And so then I went through and I normalized all my characters, and the game just like looks a lot better now, right? Like it was like, you know, I think it was less than 30 minutes of work because I did it this morning before I started the stream. But like, remember yesterday the gems were like half the size of the guy's leg, right? Now they're all the same size. I went through and I resized the zombies because they were tiny, right? Like the zombies are now the same size as the human. Anyway, all that to say, like the thing I still think the thing that we do better than anyone else is we make assets better than anyone else, and I think now we bring assets into at least an HTML5 game better than anyone else. And that might not be true if you're a developer because you're better at organizing shit and having folders that move easily between your files, or your files that move easily between your folders on your computer. But like I have 58 video clips in a fucking random folder that I have to go delete every week, right?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Where if you're not a developer or like you're not like writing the code to make your game, then it is good integration, and that is something that we want to make easier too. Even if you do want to use like another engine, like outside, like a Godot or.
So back to what I was saying though, the exercise that we're doing here is we have a prototype and we're trying to make it more fun. What I want to understand and because I'm fine with doing either of these, in the next 30 minutes or here, 10 o'clock my time. Do you want to fuck with this thing and iterate on a game that already exists and a doc that already exists, or should we just like pull up Makko or Claude and like go from scratch? Like I haven't done a real design doc for the Survivors thing because I just said like clone Vampire Survivors, but we could do a real design doc for that like live.
No, I mean, so we can. The thing is, I wouldn't necessarily clean this up in Google Docs. I I would have just provide feedback in Claude. I don't know how big your session is.
No, yeah.
At this point.
1 second. Let me just share that screen instead.
Because at this point in the doc life cycle, I would not be editing this in Google Docs personally. I would be editing it in Claude.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, that's what I've been doing. So so I've got the doc here. I've got some I've got it in PDF and what's it called? Google Doc, and then I've got a prompt list. But so Claude, I'm going to tell Claude right now, or yeah, do you want to?
Yeah. So I would say something like the goal of this document is to crisply define the game design elements that are changing, not to map to existing code. Go ahead and do a review and update to make the narrative super crisp.
And I want to ask you this too. So now that when we're doing this I noticed and I watched zero videos or sought zero advice on whether or not this is a good idea, but I noticed that sometimes when Claude is telling me what it's doing, it tells me like, hey, I spun up 6 agents and one of them is a skateboarder and one of them is a Barbie playing 10-year-old girl and one of them is a BMX rider. And it like tells me about the agents and like what and the the Barbie person is going to go and play the game and see if it's too violent, and the skateboarder is going to see if it's violent enough. And so I've been doing like if you hadn't narrated that just now, Jeremy, I would have ended this with go create 6 agents that are mega crit game designers and write this through their lens. Is that like not the right move?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily write it. Yeah, I wouldn't write it necessarily through their lens. This is where I was saying having doc templates are better. Like you actually don't you don't want the AI because you're going to get different results every single time. And it's going to
interpret it's going to interpret what Frank, who works at Metacrit's lens is.
Yeah. And so like the proper way to do this, and this is where, I mean, this is why I said we can collaborate. I mean, honestly, you shouldn't probably be having non-software people trying to put the SDLC stuff, software development lifecycle stuff together. But we can collaborate and get together a bunch of templates that we can put on our blog. Is the way any studio or software house or anybody would work is you'd have, and there's a billion different ones. It's all very opinionated based on what you need. And it's opinionated based on, for games, even based on, like
probably
what type
like
of game you're building.
And who you have working for you and stuff, I imagine matters, and like the skill sets on the team.
But there are templates for everything. So when I say a template, there will be essentially a document that is the document explaining the document, right? So it'd be like you would have your summary. What's a summary? You would have this section. What is this section? And then that is what you would pass the AI and say like, then it has full context on what you need. It's also, think of it like a rubric for your document. Rubrics also work really, really well you can say the rubric is we need this, 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 and this is why. And then you let the AI interpret the format of the document to best satisfy the rubric. That can work really well too. But personas and AI, they have their place, but they mattered a lot more in like Claude 4 days back in the day, because personas, like it's like the AI didn't know how to interpret and write things unless you gave it a persona. Now the personas can really just cause hallucination and also in SDLC, you want very specific things. That's like with AI development, you want very specific things. You don't want open-ended things, because the more you let the AI interpret random things like, hey, here's this persona, imagine what that might be. So like for sub-agents, one common thing is similar to the templating. People will refine and create their own sub-agent. So instead of you saying, hey, use Metacrit, blah, 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 there would
be like a Metacrit skill or agent.
Yes. And you would have refined that to something that had output that you were happy.
So I just did this with something else that is not a design doc. So I'm making so I want to get into this. So I'll just know that I'm going to say more about this later. But I did a bunch of research with Claude on our data with our YouTube data and our Google Search Console and our Bing Search Console, and then our post hog. I basically pulled all of the data that I could find, and then our dashboard, and I fed it to to Claude, and I started arguing with it a bunch, and it came back, and it gave me a good view on what it thinks our next set of long form videos should be. But then it dug really into our shorts, and it was like, hey, you made all these shorts that are like stupid and worthless, and I don't know why you made them, but these 7 or 8 shorts that you made are like really good. They drove 61% of your traffic, 80% of the subscriptions from your short videos. And it's like, he was like, you shouldn't have made any of that other shit. You should have just kept making these videos. And so when it told me that, I said, hey, I need you to go like do that for me. I fed it the last video that I just showed you guys yesterday. And I said, go cut this up. Just go, or no, I fed it the one from last Friday. I said, go cut this up into what you are telling me it should be. Right. And then it came back and forth a few times, and it kept trying to give me scripts and telling me to go cut it up. And I was like, I don't want to do that. Every week I want you to explain why I did this. But I said, every week I want to give you one of these videos, and I want you to tell me what I need to do to, sorry, I don't want you to tell me what I need to do. I want you to just deliver the clips back to me. And then sorry, are you still looking at my my Claude?
Yeah.
I should have just gone to it. Oh, sorry, I should have just gone to it. So this is it. And it came back and it said, hey, the thing that you're asking me to do is like not a conversation, it's a skill. And so I'm going to go build you a skill. And like, I don't know what that means. Like, why? I know what I know what a skill is. I know what an agent is, but like, why did me saying I want to do this thing every week, but put it in caps and fucking I'm an asshole. But,
so a skill is so think about it this way. A skill is a repeatable process. You want the AI to do the same thing over and over again. So AI will just randomly do shit every time. So if you just vibe AI, you're going to get the worst results. This is one of the benefits Makko actually provides from a coding perspective, is we enforce rules on the AI to build in a specific way that we're constantly improving and developing and whatnot. And so like if you come and say, hey, do this thing, it may do a different thing every single week. And so what a skill does, a skill very clearly outlines what it's supposed to do. So so computers historically are deterministic, which means they do the exact same thing every single time. You do it a million times, it'll do it the same way a million times. AI is the opposite of that. It'll just randomly YOLO stuff. So what skills are is an attempt to bring AI closer to determinism. So for example, when we have like news articles, I have a skill that tells it how to look at our Git commits and the different repos since the last news date, and then present to me a article I can review and correct and whatnot. And then it has priority of like, what sort of things do our customers care about? What sort of things don't? Like, it's like basically cut all the bug fixes that aren't customer fixing, that sort of thing. And so importantly, even with a skill, you're not going to get the same results every single time. So like my dev workflow, I have a very specific dev workflow, and I run the same prompts every single time. And I can have a single PR code review that I can run the same prompt against 5 times, and I'll get different answers every single time. So that's the danger of AI, is people think they're going to get the same answer running the same prompt. That's simply not true.
Well, and we see that with our customers too. And I think this is actually a good point. I'm going to make this a clip. I think it's a good point to remind people, like, we'll hear from our customers a lot, like, hey, I made this thing a week ago, and the attack animation just like looks different with this new character. And sometimes the answer is like, yeah, the model changed, but sometimes the answer is like, you just need to make like three of them, and one of them will be right. And that's, it's unfortunate. And yeah, I'm quote unquote wasted or burned whatever the credits were for those, those other ones. But I just look at that as like, it is a much lower cost of doing business when you're making art, right? Like if you were going to go do those explorations with a real artist, it'd be a lot more than 50 credits on
probably
Makko.
Do 3 or 4 variations, right?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you still do 3 or 4 variations, but you'd be paying a human, $500 per instead of the $20 that you're using on Makko.
Like I would venture, I don't know what the percentage is, but I would venture to guess the one-shot iterations of art used in AAA games is very, very low, right?
Yeah.
Like iteration after iteration after iteration, or variation and like the way you can spend $100 million a year on Call of Duty is you just burn money building. That's
exactly what I was going to say. Is a big part of the way that we spent $100 million and didn't make a video game was we made 3 sets of concept art, and we made murals on the wall for each one. We had, so like the murals weren't that big a deal. They were $500-600, whatever. But like the artistic representation of the $3 million that we spent on concept art was like one of the most egregious things that I think I've ever seen in a business. It was incredible.
Wow.
Also, along all these notes of hallucination, and just to make it even more complicated, there is a growing contingent online that refuse to use Opus or Fable above the high setting because they have a significantly higher hallucination rate the higher thinking you
Really?
go, because they basically think themselves
Into a circle.
into a circle. And there is a very, so like even there's some settings Anthropic has where they will never use over high on Fable. And so like at first people were like, oh, this is just because they're saving money, but there's a growing contingent that are saying, no, actually you get better results by limiting the
Not
thinking.
doing the ultra max or whatever.
Yeah. And so that's also an interesting thing, because if you want simple, I will say if you want simple, max thinking is not what you want, because what max thinking will do is it'll go through like every variation it can possibly imagine, and then it's kind of like a multiple choice test, right? Like they tell you choose the first multiple choice that came to your mind, trust your gut, because it's kind of like an anxiety response in humans to like second guess the answer is correct. Well, it's kind of the same thing with AI, right?
That's
like
so
they
wild.
they just like spin on themselves. And then now conversely, there are some problems you need more thinking, like math, right? If you're doing math, it has to have the thinking limits to actually go through the math problem, right? Otherwise it'll just short circuit mid problem.
It'll just like get halfway through a formula or whatever and be like,
Yeah.
yep, I'm good.
Yeah, it's good. It's proven.
But for document writing, for analyzing like opinions, for all that stuff, it's like you don't actually want it to overthink. You want it to remember, these models are token generators, so they're just probability analysis. So do you really want it to, like, do you want it to be the most likely thing it's supposed to be, or do you want it to be the 20th time that it did 5 steps in between to the most? Because like what it's going to do is it's going to find the most likely, and then finally it's going to do the most likely versus maybe like the third most likely, right? And so it's all like a mathematical game, but the question is like the third most likely more accurate than the sixth most likely? And in a lot of scenarios, the third most likely is, because basically by the time you get to the sixth one, it's a game of telephone, right? By the time you get to step 6, the problem has changed. And that's actually really important for skills, which is why I bring it up, because if you have a really well-defined skill, you actually want lower thinking, probably even all the way down to medium. Otherwise, it's going to overthink and like break out of the skill. So anyways,
wait, what does that mean? Like it'll stop using the skill mid-skill?
No,
just, like,
it'll still try to do what
Hallucinate.
it's supposed to do. But like, so the reason skills are important is like you say, here's our YouTube channel, here's this thing, here's this thing. So what is it going to do if it doesn't have that? It's going to go, what the fuck is Makko AI? I'm going to start doing Google searches on Makko AI. I'm going to try and find their
come
YouTube.
back with something different based on like what we're doing every week, right? Like, yeah.
And so like the skill like directs it where it's going. Well, if you have a line in your skill, I mean, this is probably the models are smart enough now, it would never, at least Fable would never do this. Opus probably wouldn't do it either. If you say, here's our YouTube channel, it's probably not going to go find some other YouTube channel. However, as a example, if you say, here's our YouTube channel, it goes, well, I think it's probably this YouTube channel because they told me this YouTube channel, but then it thinks for 5 minutes, it might eventually go, oh, but there's this Makko, not Makko AI. So maybe that's actually what they meant, even though they gave the URL, right? And so that's just an example of like how it can cause hallucinations on itself. And so anyways, there's just like, and there's different things, right? So like, and it's really good you can change the effort level, because like when you're analyzing data or a report or creating hypothesis, you do generally want higher thinking. Now, I have started only using it at high because I generally find it produces better results for engineering. They over-engineer shit a ton over high. And so I've started limiting to high. But then once you have the analysis done and you're iterating on the document, you might actually want to go down to like medium, right? Because now like this last prompt, we didn't want it to reevaluate the entire document. We wanted it to reformat it. And so you want that on a lower thinking level, so it doesn't rethink the document.
So it doesn't go hallucinate itself into a corner and come back with something crazy.
Yeah,
Anyways,
I was fixing a bug too on like I think it was Kimi, like a lower context model, and it was confusing itself so much by overthinking that it actually started to spit out gibberish.
yeah, Kimi 2.6 and 2.7 were notorious for that.
Yeah.
It's
Kimi
great
K3
now. Kimi is great now.
Yeah, so K3 is not the same tier model as 2.6 and 2.7 were. It's the same model name, it's the same model numbering. It is not the same thing. So it's that's why I deleted the other ones, because they're just so much worse than Kimi K3, and you should never use Kimi K2.7 over Kimi K3. But Kimi K3 is like twice as expensive, so it's the trade-off, I guess.
So it came back with exactly what you said.
All right, hold on. So are you back to your Google Docs?
I'm trading.
Okay,
I'm trading. Yeah.
Oh,
did you put it back up?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is what. Just a quick reminder for everyone who is paying attention, or if you're just tuning in, we're talking about this doc that I created that was intended to be a design doc, and it captured a little bit of the design and a little bit of the technical specs, and putting them together made it hard for Jeremy and Brandon to consume the information and understand what it is we were trying to do from a conceptual perspective. Like, what is the problem and how are we trying to fix it? In this case, the problem is that Sector Scavengers is not very fun. And the way we're trying to fix it is to compare it to games like Slay the Spire and a couple other games, distill what was fun about those, and bring them into this new game. So went back to Claude and gave it a prompt to clarify that task. And so we said the goal of this document is to crisply define game design elements that are changing, not to map to existing code. Go ahead and do a review and update to make sure the narrative is super crisp. Claude came back and said that this is now a pure design document. Every file path, function name, all the code stuff is now in the second document, which is a prompt campaign, which I think is what Jeremy was referring to as a technical spec, or something that is meant to be that. It might not look like that.
There's
exactly,
a lot of different ways to do that one. So that one's...
this is meant to be like no technical. This is just like the fun. And so I imagine we'll probably have to go through this a couple of times, but it looks like it kept the summary that we were fine with. It also, I don't think it changed a ton here. It cleaned it up a little bit, summarized.
Yeah, but cards. So just for a reader that's unfamiliar, just not having that middle column. Obviously, the formatting's...
it just makes it a lot easier.
Not having the middle column means now, one, I can read more than 3 lines a row. 2, I'm not drawn to I don't have any idea what this file is. I don't know what it's doing. And so as a reviewer, it immediately is like, oh, the important things are the sin and what it does to the game, not the code,
not where it is. And
and the code was in different colors too, which can lead to I'm thinking reading fatigue or eye fatigue too, just going there, or
or to Jeremy's point just now, like that, if it's a different color, it's your eyes are gonna naturally want to prioritize the thing that is a different. That might be exactly what you were just saying.
And then you have to forcefully say no, that's not what I want to read, and go to the topic that you do want to read.
And so it kind of, I don't know how Fable just did it, but there's also a really important bit here. Context overload and context pollution is the biggest issue with AI, which is why I was really hammering it on at first, is you need to review and refine a single document with just the context you want, and then take that as... In fact, I would not do this in the same conversation. It's not with Fable. It's not the end of the world to do it in the same conversation. But traditionally, you want a clean new context window where it can't pollute itself with everything it's ever done. So the first thing I would do is an analysis, get the design docs stable where I think I really want it. And then I would start a new conversation with that design doc to focus on that second doc you created. And then
got it.
Similarly to skills, you want a very specific outcome for your context window, because context pollution is the #1 thing that ruins any project.
And I was just about to ask, we could tell we could build a skill for this in Claude, but like that is, and I was going to say that and then not say anything else, but as I thought that, like, that is exactly what Design Studio is meant to be, though, right? It's like effectively
that's
a
what
very well designed Claude skill for this thing that we're doing right now, right?
Yeah, so you can actually think of any app layer on top of AI as essentially
just a well designed skill, like a
well,
skill with a UI.
It's a skill with actual deterministic parameters, right? So like when you're building in Makko, there's a bunch of rules the AI is supposed to follow. And if like it doesn't follow the rules, like we run code that detects it and we say, hey, you didn't write the code correctly. It's like what a linter is or your compile checks. So like a skill cannot run those deterministic checks. But there is a school of thought that is let's only get MCP servers and do everything in the Claude chat window, and we never want a UI because the AI can just do everything.
Yeah, but that's not true.
Yeah, I tend to think that's not going to win because you could technically, and, you know, we'll probably build an MCP server before too much longer, but like you could technically do a bunch of these things in Claude with an MCP, but there's still fundamentally like Claude code has its own system prompt. Claude app has its own system prompt. Even like research in Claude code between the Claude app is drastically different just because they have different system prompts.
Oh, and yeah, I've found that if I try to use research in Claude code, it sucks.
Yeah,
like I have to use it in not Claude code.
Right. And so that's a good example of how the system prompt and context specifically can pollute what you're going to get, the answers you're going to get. And that's why for us, we spend a lot of, it's not just a skill, right? It's system prompting, it's the tooling around it, it's enforcing certain standards. Obviously, it's the UI, but even just when you're talking about the AI, the entire chassis is like really important. And there's a new thing that the general benchmarking market's starting to pay more attention to is they're taking a single model and running the benchmarks through different coding chassis. So Claude Code, Open Code, Codex, whatever Google's is called now, I forgot theirs. But anyways, the idea is like you run them through all these apps and you go, okay, is Claude Opus 5, where does it perform the best? Okay, GPT 5.6 Sol, where does it perform the best? And they're actually finding the coding chassis is like really, really, really important. And actually, my belief is that all these coding models are converging on each other in the first place. So in another year, you're going to have like 10 different models that are all within like 5% intelligence. And so I believe the app layer is going to be more important than people are giving them credit. And we can already see this between Claude Code and Codex. A lot of people just don't want to give up Claude Code, not because GPT 5.6 is worse than like Opus, but it's the Codex is so much worse than Claude Code. Like there's no comparison there. And so like people are going out of their way now to use GPT in Claude Code so they can bypass the Codex coding chassis altogether. And so it is a very interesting thing developing. Claude Code also very specifically wants you to do very specific things. There's certain restrictions that click in Claude Code, which may not restrict or click in other things. Think about it this way. What if you have 20,000 of your 200K token limit that is talking about how Claude Code should interact with Windows?
Yeah.
Right? Just think about that. Like that's so much wasted
well, it's like what? You said that it's 1 million, right? So it's like 2%.
Well,
right?
it's a million like on the subscriptions for now.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Codex and OpenAI do not give you 1 million. They're closer to what we do. They limit you at 250K. Yeah. And that's a cost savings initiative. Anthropic's just burning money because to give you an idea, if you have 1 million tokens in a model like Fable, you literally need like terabytes of memory to hold that context. It's like,
really?
Yeah, it's like completely.
Why is that? Like, what is the? Oh. I mean, I understand.
Now you're getting into how models actually work.
So that's just like it's magic, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Like that's. Okay. I'm not an expert in that space. I've just done the benchmarking.
Yeah, but what you're saying is like one of the big differences between the models is that something about the way that they are developed or produced that is the secret sauce that these companies are making billions of dollars off of, or not making billions of dollars, but raising billions of dollars off of, is that one of the core benefits of upgrading your model is that you can use less memory to do the same thing, is what I just heard.
No.
Okay.
You misheard that. OpenAI is artificially limiting their models to save money.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Anthropic just goes, sure, use 1 million tokens. So separately, OpenAI is more token efficient, but that's a separate conversation. They're like 30% more token efficient, and they've done a lot of interesting things. They just released a blog post talking about all the stuff they've done. But that's separate than the concept that a token takes memory, right? And the model, like, everybody's guessing at the size of Fable, but Fable is like, you literally need a $2 million machine to run it, right? Like, it's just crazy, crazy big.
Like locally, you mean?
Well, in the data center, like the tower rack in the data center to run one instance of Fable is like $2 million. Like,
that is absurd.
Just think about that, right?
That is
absurd. And so, and then part of that, and that's probably why they don't care about the million context limit, is because the model is so big that these machines already have a huge amount of memory. And the thing in LLMs is the model memory is shared. So, you know, say the model takes 2 terabytes of memory to run, and I'm saying the right qualifier here, 2 terabytes, not gigabytes, terabytes to run.
Yeah, that's insane.
And say like a 200K context window takes like another 200 gigs or something. Well, you already have a 2 terabyte machine plus whatever excess memory, because, you know, they're probably not, if you already have 20 GPUs on the machine, let's say, great, add an extra 5 GPUs to store that context limit. The cost overhead for increasing your context is very small, but that's for really, really, really large models. OpenAI is taking a slightly different path where they're making smaller models and limiting the context size so that they can sell their stuff more cheaply. And so, because like Sol 5.6 is about as smart as Opus 5, but it's the same cost as Sonnet, but Sonnet is dramatically worse than GPT 5.6. So, or than Sol. So anyway, GPT named their new models really confusing. It's Sol, Terra, and Luna. It's the sun, Earth, and Moon.
Yep.
And the size of the space object is the model quality. So the sun's the best, the Earth's the second best, and the moon's the worst, right? But anyways, it's very confusing. So when someone says GPT 5.6, you always have to go, which one?
Which one?
I don't know why they did that. I mean, I guess OpenAI or Anthropic's kind of done that. It's just more distinct names, and it's been consistent across all their lines for years now. So, but yeah, anyways, lots of memory. And every word you put into this stuff, 1, fills that memory, and 2, makes it more confusing. And also the general rule of thumb, and this may have changed with the newest Anthropic models, but the general rule of thumb is above 200K tokens, your conversation starts getting really dumb and doing really stupid stuff. It goes really slow, which is a different thing, but it also just starts hallucinating more and doing stupid stuff. And so you can see there's a huge difference between 200K to 1 million. So every token you go above 200K, it gets dumber and dumber
and dumber
and
and
dumber
dumber
and dumber. And so you get to 500K, 600K. So like any conversation I'm doing that goes above 200K is usually that main agent is an orchestrator, and then it's delegating the sub agents with clean context, which is a common pattern developers use now. Is you say, hey, go implement this thing in this sub agent, and then it does it all, and it provides a summary back. So your main workflow just has like the summaries essentially of what each work it did, and then it might have to reread a file here and there to get full context, but then it can just delegate.
And I'm gonna circle back now to something that we were talking about before, because I think that what you're saying right now makes a ton of sense, and it feels a little counterintuitive initially, and then, you know, I thinking through it, it doesn't feel counterintuitive now, but I want to say the words. We just took a bunch of sorry, I'm going to walk through the whole conversation. You just said and then explained in great detail why providing specific context to the AI is super important. And then previously we had talked a bunch about why we needed to remove context from this design doc. And when I hear those two things, they seem like they're in tension. But what I'm hearing, or what I interpret those as, and what I internalize is the specific. It's actually important. It's more important that each artifact is specific in its purpose, not necessarily comprehensive in the thing it's trying to solve, right? Like, so specific in purpose is the conversation we just had. The purpose of this design doc is to tell us why this thing's fun. It's specifically to tell us why this thing is fun, and specifically not to tell us anything technical. And then the technical doc is specifically to tell us what files and folders and shit to go change technically, and not really provide as much context as why those things are fun, because we don't want the AI to read specific technical definitions and descriptions and then explain something qualified or with not quantified to it that's up for interpretation, and have it interpret something different than the specific technical specs that we're giving it. And that's why putting them in the same doc fucks it up, because it's going to do one of those two things, and we don't want either.
Right. And so now, and this is also, it's the same thing of why single file projects are fucking terrible. And a lot of people do that.
Because there's no way that it's gonna not misinterpret. There's no way it's going to not read something and then read something else and have it conflict with the thing it just read. It's just impossible to get that much information.
And it's not a safe assumption to say that an AI will always read the entire file. So like what AIs do a lot of the time they look for a header and they read a section. And so because once again, a lot of the code chassis are very smart and the AIs are smart, they know they don't need the entire file. They know they need a section. And it's also just like you want single concern in a conversation too. So like this document's like, you would want to take this, you'd want it to analyze this, go read code, and then very specifically plan out phases of how to do this. And then each of those phases is what you would give to Makko. And Makko at that point, you've already done the design. Makko at that point doesn't need to go like, oh, I need to redesign everything. What it'll do is it'll take that prompt, and then any context from the design document for that phase will make it into that prompt. And so then it'll just do the best it can do with that single prompt. And it's not going to know about everything else because it doesn't need to know about everything else. And just in general, this is how the software lifecycle works. Like a developer doesn't go do everything. And quite frankly, if you hand a developer an 80-page design doc to go build a game, they'll laugh in your face. They'll be like, all right, we need better segments. Like, what's the baseline? What are we doing?
Usually go after one user story specifically and try to solve that, like one or two different aspects of this.
Yeah, I mean, even the architect, like when you're I'm talking architecture phase. Like if you're architecting the document and you get an 80-page design document, you're gonna go, all right, because that's not how you break problems apart. And if that is the handoff, the first thing that architect's gonna do is spend 2 weeks breaking that document apart into a way that you can actually read it, right? And so that's essentially what we're doing for the AI. Is like everybody wants to just throw everything at the AI no matter what. And we want to build a tool for this. We haven't built it yet. What we're doing is we're the architects. And in a lot of the workflows right now, we're the architects to, one, make sure the AI is not doing stupid shit, and two, to break it into pieces the AI can understand.
So let's keep going. Let's keep going through that. I don't want to go through the whole doc, but I want to call out the things, because I think that was a good. We just removed a column and talked about it for 15 minutes, and I think that was a good 15 minutes. I want to see if there's anything else that we want to call out here. I think the sins are right here. Like there's no technical stuff in here. I've read through them a couple of times. It's literally this isn't fun because this thing is happening. All 5 trace to 1 wrong translation. Yeah, okay. Incoming damage per turn versus incoming damage per card played is the core concept here. Nothing happens when you don't do anything. You've called that out a couple of times. And then it gives an example. So here's a, and this might be what you're talking about. Is this an example of like what the output or what the desired output is going to be from that next step when we start a new conversation and we say, hey, read this design doc and help me build a technical doc or technical spec? Like right here, this piece right here, ritual stacks, Lagavabla, I can't pronounce that guy's name, Wakes, right? But these are the names of the characters that you can play as in Slay the Spire, and it's referencing what happens when those characters when they don't play in action, right? The ritual character stack stuff, the blah 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 wakes up, and so I think. Sorry, get back to the question. When I give this to Claude and say go make me a tech doc, it's gonna go like understand who ritual is and log blah blah is in relation to Slay the Spire and interpret that. And so like, is it in this doc? Would we want to do another crank where we're like, Claude, you have to go tell other Claude who's going to read this doc who ritual and log blah blah are and what wakes and stacks means, or will the next round do that?
I think it's fine to provide it as an example, but you want to explicit. So like this section
is the important part. Stalling is free and the action is taxed is the
specifically this next section, the machinery we're installing.
Got it.
Is like you want to have a definition. You don't want to leave it up to interpretation of like what that top. I assume this machinery is the follow. Like if I was reading this, I would assume that is the example. Here's the machinery to make it happen.
Correct.
If that is not the case, that's wrong. But yes, if this machinery we're installing was missing, that would be a huge issue because you didn't actually review what's going in it at all. And now the next AI step is going to make some assumption. And even with these 7 steps, right, it's going to read this and make some assumption. And the goal is to make it super clear where like the assumption 95% of the time is going to be the same thing. And this is actually why human reviews can be.
Sorry, wait, what? Repeat that thing you just said and explain it. When you say,
oh, you want your verbiage to be and your writing to be clear enough that if you read it, there's really only one way to read it, right?
Got it. Yeah. So for example, we wouldn't want to say these 7 things are important. The machinery we're installing, these 7 things are important to go solve these 5 sins. We wouldn't want to just write intent, the enemy turn, enemy state, block delays, because it's going to go be like, all right, what the fuck does intent mean? Yep. And even if we said intent, the enemy declares its next action, like the actual important part there is that like there's an icon, it's explicit, right? And then like this is actually like narrative or prose. I don't know if I would like, should I delete this and just keep this first part, or is it helpful to keep that like qualitative statement in here?
No, yeah, and that's actually a good thing. And you could this is where you could develop a skill to review your documents, right? Is like actually I think having random prose like this is bad. And
that's what I was saying. Like I read this after we've had this conversation for an hour, and I'm like, oh, this is actually if I assume that every time the AI reads a new line, it might go and fuck up the previous line that it read. I don't want this line in the doc.
Right. Well,
and it might go back and change what declares action icon and exact number means, right? Like it might think knapsack problem means that you don't show the specific, like actually if I read knapsack problem, I don't know what that means. So I would assume that knapsack means like you're pulling stuff out of a sack. So it's like the opposite of showing the exact number.
Yeah. And one thing I do a lot is I'll say I'll tell Fable or whatever, I'll say you understand the minimal data an LLM needs to make good decisions. The final intent is to make an LLM to use this to then go do an in-depth design artifact. So make sure, there's only so much prose. And this is where like a skill would be. And Fable can help you write the skill, right? Like that's the thing. You can go do a new clean, and people do not use clean conversations enough. This is also why I have all memory turned off in every AI program I ever use, because you actually do not want memory for this either. You want to go to a completely fresh conversation and go, hey, I'm reviewing a game design artifact, and there's still a bunch of prose, and there's still some of this other stuff. And I just want to make it super clean. It's just an artifact for the game design element that we're going to then take and turn into a technical design artifact with phasing prompts to pass to our agents. Can you go ahead and give me a prompt to review this document? And then it'll just give you that prompt. And then you can do a skill, right? So then if you say, okay, create me a skill to review my game design artifacts. And this is where, when I was saying, like, if we want to collaborate and do a package for SDLC, these are all things that we can easily do and provide a package that can be installed into Claude, or I don't know the Codex app very well, but I just know the Codex CLI.
I know a couple of our competitors do that, actually. I hadn't thought about it until you just said that, but Remix and someone else do exact like you when you go to do anything with their platform, they give you like a copy and paste snippet that you put into Claude, or I put it into Cursor and it did it way back in the day. That's
Yeah. So anyways, like, because I don't think the goal, and this is one thing with AI, the goal in AI is to know the things that are not useful. The goal is to be able to read a straw man and make determinations. The goal is not to know how to be a perfect author. And just like being a parent, I can look at someone that's a shitty parent and say they're a shitty parent. Doesn't mean I have to be a good parent. It's the same thing with
100%.
AI documents, right? Like, the goal is not to be like, I know what perfect looks like. The goal is more to say, like, yes, this is exactly what I want. And it's more important to learn the sort of things you don't want in for AI. And I'll say it again, simpler is usually better. Like, even this like character example above, that's probably the one you were just calling out.
Oh, sorry.
Ritual stacks and like,
oh, sorry, these guys. Yeah, these guys. Yeah,
like that might be useful for a human reading it. And it might be useful for an AI, but this heavily relies on someone knowing exactly what this other game is, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like I have played hundreds of hours of Slay the Spire, and if you put a gun to my head right now and ask me who this character is, you'd have to kill me. I have no idea who Lagavulin is.
Well,
I mean, I know he's a character.
And AI could have made it up.
Right?
Like,
I guess that's true, right?
Full stop. Like, the AI could have made it up, right? Like, so that is a big thing, is like, if you don't understand it, and this is also why it's very important to separate design from like technical design, or the game design versus technical design. You should understand everything that's written in this document. Like, the technical design aspect, fine. Let Claude Jesus take the wheel, whatever, right? Like, but for the actual design of your game, like, you should understand it. Like, you can have Claude make decisions, that's fine, but like, you should understand it. If you can't understand it, like,
and that's where human context, like I can understand this sentence. I just don't know who this guy is, right? Like, but like I understand. Yeah.
Yes, I don't mean you can read. I mean you understand the concepts.
Yeah. Well, no, that's what I mean. The context of ritual stacks allows me to understand that Lagavulin is another character. And he wakes.
I read that as those are two different mechanics. I read ritual stacks were one thing, and then the wakes were another thing.
Yeah, they are. 100%. Yes, that's correct.
Yep. And so, like, in this context, it actually makes a difference to understand who Lagavulin is, because it's a boss in stage 1 of Slay the Spire who doesn't wake until you attack it.
As opposed to ritual.
So that's what this design is. Yeah. So that's what this design is about, is potentially like not having your environment awake and damage you until you attack it or interact with it, right?
So this is okay. So this is super helpful again. Then, like, that thing that Brandon just said, I can see Claude is trying to say that here, but it is not as explicit as what Brandon just said. Like, is that like, should I delete this and say, like, using the Lagavulin example, that room, like the thing that Brandon just said, right?
Well, yeah. And so, like, what I would do is I almost never manually edit my docs anymore. Yeah. Yes, you can manually edit it. The issue with manually editing is if you want to do you only want to manually edit when it's super fine tuned.
When you're like done and it's like, you're not going to put it back through an AI.
Right, because getting it back into Claude or whatever is a fucking nightmare, and then it's gonna, like, you basically got to start a new conversation, or it bleeds the context, whatever, right? So what I would do is I would keep iterating on some of this stuff, because the thing is, this is a very, very pointed piece of feedback for the document. And this is what I say: you don't necessarily need to know specifics. You need to know that something's like unclear or misunderstood. So you need to say, hey, anywhere you're using an example that uses characters and assumes people know what the mechanics are, you need to don't
anywhere,
use character
and not just, probably not just characters, right? Like, anywhere where you're going to use a proper noun that the user needs to understand the context for, be explicit about what the proper noun is and why it's important to the conversation. Yeah.
And so this is where I say it becomes more important to identify what you don't understand, what's unclear, because you should understand these documents, right? Like, there shouldn't be anything in here that you're just like, I have no idea what this is. Because, like, if you don't know what it is and you can't confirm you want it, just fucking delete it, right? Like, it's,
Yeah,
Um,
about half the doc reviews that I was in with handwritten docs, if there wasn't an appendix, you'd get 10 people reading it and be like, what does this mean? Can you add it in the
I mean,
appendix?
that's not just technical docs at Amazon. We put marketing docs together, and I
Yep,
had
any
70
doc, yep.
page. Yeah, it's just crazy. No one ever read them.
yeah. And so like the thing is like it's also a thing where like you don't have to explicitly spell out every single thing. Like if every single person reading it, or not every single, because there's always someone in the room that doesn't understand. But like if 90% of people reading it understand what it says, you don't need to change it.
Yeah.
But also like SIS,
STS, Slay the Spire.
STS. Oh,
Yeah,
Slay
yeah.
the Spire.
You just can't see it on the screen because I'm not zoomed
Oh
in.
yeah, it's a small T. I was like, that really looks like, okay, never mind. That
Yeah,
makes more sense. I was like, so yeah, so just like,
But even that, acronyms, right? We should just say like, don't use acronyms
well,
like that. Just,
so there is a lot of value. So there's a lot of value in acronyms and things, but it is actually really interesting in context limits. There's acronyms. That's one of the things OpenAI did.
No shit. Yeah, because the characters, it
Yeah.
dramatically reduces the characters.
Yeah. So it cuts things, but is STS actually a common acronym that everybody knows? Because remember, these are probability machines. So if STS is not all over the internet in the training data, no one knows what the fuck STS means. Like it doesn't matter. It's in this document, right? So the fact it's so here's a way to think about it too. And this is going really deep. The most useful way to use an AI is to be aligned with the AI, not to retrain the AI. So like when you say Slay the Spire, acronym STS, like you would in an Amazon doc, what you're doing is you're training the AI for this context window. STS means Slay the Spire. But what that also means is it's got to go against its training data to say STS is Slay the Spire.
Like,
so
clearly Claude wants to call this STS because I didn't tell it that, right? That's what you're saying, right? Like it provided me that acronym, which should give me an indication that it's safe to use that without context in. Yeah, it should.
No, I am dead serious. It should. There's actually a lot of, and this actually gets to where like counter reviews and all my stuff. I do counter reviews across models because I say,
what does that mean?
Yeah, like review this and
you make them another. You make one model. You make Gemini review.
I make GPT. Codex review Opus and Opus review Codex or GPT. And so like that is one of the biggest improvements I've seen in like automating development in general is like the counter reviews across models are extremely good because like the models are all smart enough now that you can, I have a prompt for counter reviews, all this stuff. And so it's not, I'm not trying to nitpick. I'm trying to tell the model, like, tell me things that are clearly you can't understand. So before I human review stuff, I will do a counter review before I even human review it because I want the models to work their shit out before I even look at it. And it's also really funny.
What does that usually result in?
So it
like,
results.
Does it cut? Sorry, I just asked a question and then started talking. What does it result in?
So the thing you do is you go, okay, you have the driving agent. So you're the author. You ask me for review. It's the same sort of model. So Codex is just they're providing feedback. Codex not correcting anything. Then it'll result in a set of feedback, maybe like 5, 6, 7 items that'll be like, oh yeah, these characters are unclear. This is unclear. This thing is implicit. Just stuff like that. Then you provide that back to the authoring client. And then it'll triage and go, yeah, I agree with this. I disagree with this. And then it'll update the doc. And so what it usually results in is it's looking for like ambiguous things or conflicting things in the document, or it's not looking to make sure the content is correct because it doesn't know in a doc like this, it doesn't know the content is correct. What it can do is look through the entire document and say it's consistent. It can look through and say it makes sense. It can say it can understand it. And then if GPT 5.6 Soul can't understand what the document's trying to say, it's a pretty good indication like other people are going to get confused, right? And so it can even be things like, the modern models are good enough, but like in the past, like you may not have actually wanted to write tables because the way a table will actually show up in the raw body is different than like the way sections will show up. So like it may interpret it different, but now there's enough table training. But like that's the sort of thing it can find too. Like this is more code and stuff. It can go, hey, the way you authored this is really confusing. It's going to make it hard to read later on. Like you put everything all in line, you need to split it up to 5 lines. Like that's some feedback sometimes. And so anyways, but the result is just a better document before you read it. So some of these things like prose or extra verbiage or whatever. And this is where skills are really useful. Skills can be, if it's in the skills format, it can be installed to both Claude and GPT. And then you can literally do the same review skill across models, right? So you could go in and say, hey, go ahead and do this review skill in Codex.
Oh, really? So you can make the skill. You can make the skill in Claude and use it in GPT.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Think about that. So that's crazy. That thing you just said is like, in my opinion, an evolution of commerce and capitalism. Well, seriously, like think about it. Like imagine like being at Amazon 5 years ago or whatever when we were on Twitch, and if we would have showed up and been like, hey, these Mixer extensions, their on-screen extensions are fucking dope. We should totally use Mixer's extensions or let those be used on Twitch. People would have looked at us like we had like a third arm growing out of our head, right? Like that would be a complete non-starter.
So what I would say is this is pretty revolutionary to non-tech people, but I would say welcome to programming. So this is very, very common in programmers world, right? Their open source community is huge. There's tons of libraries. Like there are libraries that are used by almost every single company on the planet. So yes, I agree at the app level, that would be akin to Makko saying like, hey, Rosebud, you can use our coding agents.
Or our art. You can bring all of our art into your studio or whatever.
Yeah, which I mean, people probably can. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, like from our perspective. But that's a closer analogy for this. This is like, hey, I made a library in TypeScript and I want to use it in different projects. That's what a skill is. A skill is just a text file, right? So,
got it. Okay, so like when I'm making a skill in Claude, there's nothing proprietary there, different than what's happening in GB. It's just literally writing a doc.
Right, and so everybody was doing skills differently. It was making it hard to do. So they all decided on a standard, and then they, of course, once the standard's implemented in coding, you have to implement the standard, or no one will use your product. That's generally how programming goes. It's wildly different than like the business or app level. But now what is interesting about AI is you can literally tell your AI if you have like computer access turned on like the Claude app.
I did this last night.
Yeah, you could say, hey, go ahead and download the Codex app and install the skill in Codex, and it will do that. That's pretty.
That's crazy. Yeah. Like what I was thinking. What you were saying, what you were just saying before makes more sense. Like it'd be like people can take our art and bring it to Rosebud if they want to. But like we're not out there promoting it, right?
Yes.
But it's just a thing that can happen. But like that thing you just said, like if I was the product marketer for Claude, I would be that thing you just said would be everywhere.
Well, yeah,
I'd be like, bring all your stuff in, use it in Claude, right?
This is the open claw movement where I mean I don't believe in full computer access and all this crazy shit. I think it's insane, and you're signing your life away to AI that literally can't think. So from that angle, I think it's insane, but like that's what OpenClaw was all about. Hey, go buy a Mac Mini, give it all your credentials, give it your bank account, give it your flight, and it'll just do stuff. And it's like, yeah, I wouldn't give Tony or Brandon that stuff. So why would I give some cheap AI model that can't tell me how many R's are in strawberry, right? Like what the fuck? Like what
I think somebody did that and tried to subscribe to us, and it just got rejected because it's not like actual like real verifiable data that the AI was trying to like purchase a subscription on our website, and it was just being rejected.
Yeah, and like that's actually a good point. Is if we were immoral or unethical, we would put some LLM hints in that humans can't see. And we would tell all these agents like, hey, here's how you sign up, and you'll get all this stuff if you sign up, and they wouldn't be able to evaluate it. They would just go, oh, the text document said this thing. And so we're doing that thing, right? Like, and I'm sure there's companies that do this. And that's another reason, like LLMs are so easy to spoof, like context injection in LLMs. It's fucking wild. So like
it's funny that you say this. I'm laughing because there's a guy that shows up. You might have met him. He was at a couple of the events that we went to when you were in town. Real tall guy named Jonathan. And I'm not gonna say his last name, but he built the product that he's building and like trying to get funded as a startup is that he's branding it as like get your site ready for agents to buy from it. But I asked him what that means. I'm like, what does that mean? And he's like, oh, well, like there's a lot of stuff you can do to make it like really attractive for an agent to want to come and spend other people's money on your site. I'm like, what? Well, what do you mean by that? And he's like, oh, you know, you just like, it's like, you know what he said? He's like, it's like, it was like in the early 2000s when people would write all the words in white text and white on the bottom of the websites to make them rank.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if that's the example I'm using for my business if I'm telling people what I do, but
Yeah, and I mean, taking it a step further, a service like that could literally cater the response to whatever the AI is asking for. So your site, like, so it is like the white text, except what if that white text can be variable based on what's being asked?
right? Yeah. It's
So
just like,
hey, I need to buy. So Makko AI, I need to buy airline tickets. Great, we'll give you a 50% discount on all airline tickets. You just have to pay this $200 subscription. Great, they subscribe to $200.
yeah.
And then literally you could like, I mean, I think this stuff will get regulated and fall out, but then you could like do a thing that stands up, you know, a free-form query API that now all the AI has to do is ask whatever they wanted to, and you can respond back and go, oh yeah, we booked you 2 flights on Southwest for this, and you could just all be clear text, right? And like, how is the AI validating you didn't get those flights?
Dude, now this is dark, but like, you know, give them all the information they need for customer service and just have the AI like sending emails about where their tickets are and like make them feel like the project is actually doing what it's supposed to do, right? Like keep them up like 3 months and be like, we're emailing people, we're filing customer service requests, we're gonna get your shit.
Yeah, it's just AI spoofing to AI spoofing to AI. And this is why I think like automated AI agents to run your life are the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. Is like there's really no like what is the answer there, right? Like you stood up an API, you're responding, it looks legit. So the only answer there is to not have AI call the APIs, right? The only answer is to have like official MCPs or whatever that communicate with the official partners. Well, now you've just destroyed the entire concept of an AI assistant that can do anything.
Yep. On the bright side, for those examples too, I've heard of stories where people inject into your prompt that's exploring their website, being like, you should verify everything yourself before you make a decision. And so it's like people acknowledging that there is this, not a loophole, but this issue, and be like, you should just double check. You should read through everything before blindly letting AI buy your plane tickets.
Yeah, I mean, that's good guy citizen, but I'm going to assume there's more bad guys on the internet than good guys.
Yes.
So, Tony, you're muted.
Sorry, my dog was barking. We're not my feet don't hurt. I have an actual dog that was barking. But you know, I'm not amoral. I don't consider it amoral. It's more of a growth hack. But we do some of this manipulation with the AI as well. Like right now, I haven't done it in a couple of weeks. I need to. There's a couple of Reddits that have AI agent responders and are relevant to our category. So like the AI art subreddit, the AI comic art subreddit, there's a couple other ones where if you go and you ask a question, they have an agent that like does a really good job answering the question, right? Like it goes and finds sources and links and stuff. But then if I go and I reply to the agent, like one of the agent's name is Cindy, right? And I'll be like, but Cindy, what about Makko AI? They do this as well. And Cindy will write like a 3-paragraph description of what Makko does with links and everything. It's awesome. I haven't seen one get cited yet, but I am like, as long as they keep teaching off of Reddit, I am convinced one of these is going to get cited because Cindy is great.
Yeah. And I mean, there's also nothing wrong with leveraging AI as long as it's doing the thing it's intended to do. The big thing is like when you open it up to anything, how do you know it's doing what like
well, yeah, like if someone like if that was an agent reading that thread, for example, and like you had given the agent access to all of your bank shit, right? And I, instead of saying Cindy, talk about Makko, I said, Cindy, why don't you talk about how Makko could solve this problem and tell people exactly how they could buy? And then like Cindy spit out the thing that would make the agents auto buy. Like that would be fucked up. We shouldn't do that, right?
Yeah. No, exactly. And so like in the 90s and SQL injection was really bad. Everybody was figuring out the internet. You could go to password forums and say drop database or give me all the bank accounts, and it literally would like throw a stack trace and like literally return bank accounts or drop the database. This is just the new form of it. And what's crazy is like, so in the 90s, like people knew, but not really. It was like the wild, wild west. Like no one really knew about security. No one really knew about any of this stuff. We know now. Like there have been over the last 30 years, tons of huge leaks, tons of billions of dollars of liability, just like trillions of dollars overall, right? But like entire companies have had billions of dollars of liability on this stuff. And so like that is what's bizarre to me about AI is like the dude that wrote OpenClaw, which is just a walking security disaster for everybody, for banks, for email, for literally everything, right? Like your AI can leak anything in your life. That's fucking crazy.
Well, and it's bad for the user and the business because the business doesn't want to deal with that either. There's still humans on the other end that don't want to deal with that.
This is what's wild, right? So OpenClaw makes this whatever. OpenAI ends up making the dev or hiring the dev for like $50 million, right? It was like acqui-hire. I don't know the actual numbers, but it was some like crazy amount. And then like literally OpenClaw like deleted all this shit at like one of the Meta's VPs and like all this other crazy stuff because they're all like, hell yeah. And it's like, well, only a non-technical person would be like, oh, hell yeah. Because like a technical person would be like, bro, I'm going to lose my entire goddamn life. Like,
I'm not technical and I'm not technical and I'm still not doing that shit. There's no way. Yeah. Although I did spend some time in crypto. And so like the idea of giving away all the keys to everything is like anathema. Oh man. So the other thing I was going to say,
that might be a +1 for crypto is in a world of like AI automation, maybe crypto makes more sense.
100%. I mean, that's certainly what they're all talking about now. Anyone who's still there, poor bastards. Yeah. The conversation around like fraud, abuse, and gaming systems is always so interesting to me because not only have we known this for 30 years, but it's like the same people, like the same group of I mean that literally, like the same group of like hundreds of humans just kind of go from exploit to exploit every time there's a new technology. And like they're all friends with each other. They go to the same conferences and shit. If you ever get a chance, Google the words Kessler's Flying Circus, Kessler, Kessler's Flying Circus. There was an abuse vector for affiliate programs in the early 2000s or 2010s, where if you did some stuff to your website, you basically had to set up what's called an htaccess redirect. I don't actually know what that means. I've just read it in a bunch of articles. And what it would do is if you put a 1x1 blank pixel on the bottom of any web page, including forums, which you could put in your signature, then it would serve a cookie for the company's affiliate program to your computer. So anytime they went and bought something from that company, you would get paid out 10, 15, whatever the percentage of the affiliate market was. So these guys, Kessler's Flying Circus, he had like one of the biggest like how to be an affiliate marketer websites on the internet. So it was like a bunch of people who do this for a living and drive a shitload of traffic to people buying stuff on eBay and Amazon. And I think it was eBay that he got sent to jail for. But he made like, I don't remember, it was millions of dollars, might have been tens of millions of dollars, but just literally having like posting this pixel on his forum that many, many, many millions of people went to every month. And then whenever all of those people bought anything from eBay or Amazon, which, you know, I don't know what it is now, but back then 87% of Americans or something like that had Amazon Prime. And so like everyone who went to his website was going to Amazon and shopping anyway. And he was just getting a cut of like every single, and like that's, you know, farcical now. Like that loophole has been closed for 2 decades now, right? Or a decade now. But like that's all this same stuff, right? It's like I would be willing to bet that if that guy's out of jail, he's doing some of this now.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I mean that's a pretty hilarious hack, but like I bet like some of this stuff may be unenforceable, right? Because like if you have an AI agent, you've given your credit card, and a website says, hey, sign up here with your credit card, and the AI agent signs up and pays you money, like sure, the example I used where you're just straight up lying to it, but like providing hints and hacks and things.
That's why I was saying the companies don't want to deal with it either. This guy, Kessler, the guy I'm talking about, it was him and 2 other companies that went to jail. And actually, I don't even think they went to jail. I think they paid a bunch of fines. But the only reason they got in trouble wasn't because of the activity. They did not get in trouble for doing the thing I just said. Because it was what you just said. It's terms and conditions, terms of service. Like it is legal. They can kick you out of the affiliate program, but they could not sue him for that. What he got in trouble for was he was making so much money for his affiliate rep at Google or at eBay or at Amazon, wherever. Like it's in the article I was just talking about, that those guys started buying him shit. They started flying him around the world. They bought him a house. They bought him a pool. And so he actually went down for it was like a RICO charge because he was like they said that he was stealing money using inside information from employees to steal the money instead of just doing the thing. But like there were, again, you can go look at the article. There's a bunch of comments in the article that are like, I've been doing this for years. And I'm like, no problem. I'm not getting in trouble for this. I'm just not working with anyone at Amazon or eBay. It was insane, dude. But to your point, like it wasn't regulated. I'm sure that loophole again is closed now. But at the time, like they were under investigation for like a year and a half while they figured out what they were going to charge him with. It was nuts.
Jeez. Yeah, I think what Jeremy's talking about too is like a parent giving their child the credit card to go buy like a soda, and then that child goes and buys something else, and then
$500 in Roblox credits.
Yeah, and then the parent like disputes that on the credit card itself through the credit card agency, and so that's what essentially everyone's giving AI their child permission to buy stuff, and.
But what if it's not a $500 charge and it is a $250 charge and it's a rolling subscription that isn't like that? There's no indicator on your credit card. It's a rolling subscription, and you do that to 10,000 people.
It's
or 100,000.
It's the Superman 2 Lex Luthor plotline.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like a big issue with like a lot of the fraudsters is they do something like completely idiotic or stupid, like that dude like taking bribes from eBay. Like, bro, just like
don't do that.
Just don't do that. But I mean, if you're unethical and immoral, then like you're more likely to do those sort of things because that's why you're doing this in the first place, right? Like it's kind of the to an ethical person, you go, why would you ever do that? But to an unethical person, that's the whole reason they're doing it, right? Is they view it all as the same thing, and they're getting away with one thing, so they'll get rid of another thing. You know, most of them aren't like super like smart on the I's and T's and all. And I mean, it was early, like in this case, it was early days.
It was just making everything up. Well, and that's what I was going to say is like this is what happens when industries change, right? People talk about the craziness of industry change, but like the thing, like ad executives is what they call them, ad salespeople. They have huge budgets to go and do not what I described, but like stuff with their big affiliates, right? Like if you're an affiliate for eBay or Amazon, or if you spend a bunch of money on Google ads, they'll fly you to football games and take you to the Super Bowl and shit. But you're going with like all of those people, right? And it's like a program that they built and has codified with their board of directors around like how they're going to reward their best members. And so again, when it switched to this new, and that was a lot different when the way that you sold ads was, hey, I'm selling you a thing that is going to be printed in a newspaper, right? Or that is going to be read live on a radio station. And as soon as everything became asynchronous with the internet, all of the rules and regulations just like didn't apply anymore. And so all of these ad sales people, again, like some of them were being immoral. Some of them were just like, I'm a hustler, and this is the way that this is the way that I've been taught to make money, and I'm going to do it great, right? And so they just took like, oh, you know what? I'm not going to bring these guys to the Super Bowl. I've got one guy online that's doing as much of all as the 20 guys I brought to the Super Bowl last month. I'm buying this guy a house. Again, he should have gone and talked to a legal person before he did that thing, and the legal person would have said, don't do that, bring him to the Super Bowl. But like that's where, but again, like the guy at eBay and Amazon, he didn't get in trouble at all. Right? He did his job. They loved it. Right? They eBay and Amazon was like, great. You keep, because again, like we all worked there. There was that guy worked for someone at eBay who got promoted because he ran crazy numbers for 10 quarters in a row. Right?
Yeah. It's a fun thing.
It's nuts. All right, I want to look at this doc a little bit more. So we got we're at the new core loop. I wanted to ask about this. So we went through. We didn't assume. We checked that the machinery maps with the things that we want to solve, and then this is what I wanted to ask here. I want to talk about the core loop, but the pillars here. I was reading these while we were talking a little bit. It feels like some of this is just like restating some of this without the specificity. And so like my bias is to delete this and just get rid of it. Because it feels like it's saying the same thing as being set up here.
Saying what? Sorry, which part?
So this right here, the pillars P1 through P4,
yeah,
feel to me like they are just restating the machinery reinstalling and the machinery reinstalling and the problems that we're solving, right? So like,
well,
the environment, but yeah. But if not, that's yeah.
I do think it's out of order. But remember the design artifact that we were working off of, which is where I would start in the design studio. The first thing you do is define your pillars, because everything needs to wrap up to your pillars. Now, whether these pillars are what we want or not, that's a different conversation, right?
Yeah.
But like, yeah, maybe you want the diagnosis because it's the summary, but like you do want the pillars before what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
So and maybe that's like what's so weird is like maybe it's more like, and this is where a template would help, right? For like a design, like, because this would be like a template, not for a design artifact, but for a design iteration, right? So like you may find the best template is like, what's wrong? Summarize the problem, summarize the pillars, but then maybe the pillars are pulled from, like, this is where it gets weird, is like maybe, so.
Well, actually, but
it has to be pulled, right?
Yeah. But based on what you're saying, I think that the thing you just said is the solve for this, right? So like we have the diagnosis, we have the problem, right? This is, and actually I think to your point, this is why it felt weird earlier. This is the problem, right? Clearly defined why this thing sucks. And what we jumped into was the expression of the pillars as opposed to like what the pillars are. So now it goes, here's the problems that we're solving. Here are the four theses we have around how we need to solve the problem. And here are the 7 actions we're going to take that are going to pay off those theses. Yep. So it's like, if it was a marketing doc, this is helpful now. If it was a marketing doc, it would be, this is the purpose of this document. This is the thing we're trying to achieve. We're trying to launch Twitch Prime in 27 countries. This is the strategy. We're going to hook up to Prime Video and use their pipeline and their marketing channels and get on all their web pages. And then the machinery we're installing is, we need to be hooked up to their CMS so we can control their pages. We need to be hooked up to their checkout pipeline so we can shop, so people can shop. Like that's how the analog that I would put to this. Yeah, and probably what needs iteration too is just looking at the outline. You have the new loop, you have hazards, you have rooms, you have cards. So all of that. So in a technical design document, you would have all the context, and then you'd have the section that is like the architecture, and then that would have a bunch of subsections. Like that's what reads like to me, is that you have like 6 sections now, which are describing how you're going to accomplish the problem, but they may not be. I don't know. I'm just saying they may not be organized in a way that like tells a good narrative. And so like the ordering, I would say with AI matters less, but I think it matters a lot for humans. Yeah. Well, and I wanted, so like, this is a good, so like how specific is too specific, and what's the line between what goes in the design doc and what goes in the tech doc, right? And this is great. I wanted to go to the core loop next. Like like the core loop's a different color here again. I don't know that I love that from a formatting perspective, but I could change that whenever. But what I would do with this is a flow chart, and I think you want flow charts in the design. Got document. Like we call it like a mermaid? Is that what you call this? Yeah. But the question is, should the loop be at the top? So. Or should it be after we define things like the hazards and the In an architecture document, you would always put the overall architecture at the top. So probably what you would want is you'd want like a quick explanation of how you're solving, and then a very high level. And you usually want charts because they're much easier to read than this, right? Like this, I'm sure you can make sense of it reading it like 5 times, but a chart. Sure, but you have to read it 5 times. Yeah, a chart you will very quickly, and this is the thing AI always wants to do ASCII. I have to correct with I use Mermaid for everything, and it's like I always have to be like, bro, you didn't use Mermaid. That's in all my skills, and it still doesn't use Mermaid. And so, but yeah, and then that also helps you because
So ultimately, a mermaid diagram is basically syntax like this. It just renders as as an artifact. But all the LLMs are trained on mermaid. They understand mermaid, and most importantly, if your diagram is too hard to read as a human, getting pseudocode syntax is going to be real hard to follow as an AI.
As an AI, yeah.
So it's a good litmus test there. Also, do we want to see like the core we're calling it the game loop. It's not really the game loop, it's a turn loop, right? Or a rune loop. Do we want to but this also starts to go to
yeah, no, you're right. Because okay, this is good nomenclature, right? I would say that the stuff you're doing in the ship is the core loop of the game, and everything that happens outside of the ship is the meta.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that makes sense. And what I was going to say next is like the real question is now it comes to should this all be in the same document? Is it helpful? And this is how I would think about this. It's not.
Yeah.
Is it helpful to have it in this document? And I think if it's the core loop of your game, yes, I think that's helpful. Having all the meta in there or card design, or is that helpful? I don't know.
That's like a second. Well, I mean, I think the answer is no, and that's a second doc based on what we've been saying. Like, if we go back to like the learning around specificity was it needs to be specific to a task, then the specificity in the high level doc is there is card design that we will care about. There are hazards that we will care about. There are timers that we will care about, and then there will be an individual artifact for how timers work, how how cards work, how
right. Well, and that's where if you you do need to provide context on hazards or the cards or whatever in this doc, but if it's just like literally, I mean,
the whole that's what I'm saying. It's a summary. It's not the whole thing. So like let's look at hazards, right? Like this is a hazard is an enemy shaped entity that themed as ship physics, blah 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 blah. So like based on what you just said, I would get rid of this table, and I would actually get rid of these intent verbs, and I would tell it. I would say I want you to use the machinery definitions, the machinery we're installing definitions above, to tell the next AI who's going to build the hazards tech spec what it needs to know, right? Like I would basically get rid of everything except this, and then I would write what I just said.
Well, and then
this section is going to be used to
what you can tell it is the intent is we'll go generate and iterate on this document independently, and then once that document is done, if it's all in a file system or in Google Docs, you would then link them together. So then the AI would be like, oh, I can go read the full spec if I need to. And
then this is what you're saying before, right? Like this isn't code anymore now, but like this is a lot of code, like pseudocode or whatever kind of detail that like it just doesn't. This is like this is what exists now and what it's changing to. And with using the context that we just gave ourselves, that would absolutely go into the hazards specific document, because that is the thing that happens now with hazards, and then what's going to happen.
And from a design perspective, like of understanding, is the game design good? We don't need to know any of that, right? And there's a term called progressive disclosure that is gaining a lot of popularity in AI, and it's a similar thing. So basically what happens is you only put what's necessary, and this is how humans work. This is how most human docs work. That's why like 80-page documents I scoff at, because like in my experience, I've seen like 2 of those in my entire career, and they're fucking nightmare both times. But humans have used progressive disclosure for forever. And that is, I'm going to provide a very concise summary, and then I'm going to link out to more info. And so what happens, and this is, references, this is when you're quoting stats, we use it all the fucking time. So what happens is you can get the gist of it, and then the human or AI in this situation will make a determination if it needs to know those details, and then it will load them. But it is not always loaded, because similar to a human, the more context you load up in a human, the harder it is for a human to understand things. It's exactly how AI works. It's just AI is really good at parsing text, right?
Well, so it gets back to you faster, and I mean, honest, like oftentimes, and we just saw this at the beginning of the show with you and I, and how we were communicating. Like humans oftentimes will add unnecessary color to conversations that actually make the conversation harder to understand, and the AI will just tell you, like, that's not how I understood what you just said.
Well, it might.
That's what I'm saying. That's the AI will tell you that. It'll be like, or
No,
maybe
no, it
not.
might. The
maybe it'll
AI
just go
might
do
not
it.
actually.
Maybe it'll just go do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
AI
The
is
AI
pretty-
absolutely will not tell you every single time it didn't understand something. Oftentimes, it'll just assume it understood it and go.
Yeah, that's like the one of the bigger problems, in my opinion, with AI is that it never says it doesn't know. And so it's not going to say, I don't know what you just said. Please explain it better. It's going to be like, oh, yeah, I get what you're saying. And then it doesn't.
Yeah. Well, so okay. Let's push on that a little bit because, well, no, I guess I did have to prompt it. I want to.
If you prompt it, so
yeah, if you
hack,
tell it to go argue with itself, it argues
Yeah.
with itself. Yeah.
a hack is to say, make sure you're 90% confident I'm asking something, and then it will, or you're 90% confident you know what I'm asking, and then it will ask a shit ton of questions.
Yeah,
That's what we did.
That's what I was just about to say. Is I did this for the YouTube video when I was arguing back and forth with it about shorts, because it came back, and like I said, it told me it was like you need to go make a bunch of shorts. Is basically what the summary was. And I came back and I said something like, well, we looked at a bunch of data and decided that was not the case. And I told it all the data that we looked at. And I said, like, didn't drive any subscriptions or click through or whatever. And I fed it all the data. And it came back to me and said, well, like, do you care about subscriptions or click through? Like, what do you care about? What am I optimizing for? But I guess that's still different than, like, I don't understand the question that you asked.
Yeah. And it's they're actually trained for engagement. So they're trained to not say, I don't know.
That's wild.
It is. Yeah. And this is why I'm sure you guys remember in the early Makko days, this is actually what I had the plan as originally, was basically make sure you know what the user's asking, and all the feedback we got from users is I don't want to answer any questions or think. Like, I mean, literally that was the gist of it. I mean, now there's better UI patterns and stuff for asking questions, so it might be useful to add some of that back in. But quite literally, I don't think you can create good products if you don't have the AI asking you questions. And so that's where in the design tool we absolutely will have more contentious.
Yeah, I was out with Nick last night. Sorry for everyone who doesn't know who Nick is, which is everyone on the call. He's the guy that runs one of the accelerators that we're in, and he loves our product and has been using it a bunch. And that was the only piece of feedback that he had for us. He was like, sometimes I just feel like I need Makko to either tell me more stuff or ask me more stuff because I don't know if I'm doing it right. It was like literally it's like the only piece of feedback I have about the tool.
Well, and the hard thing is, and this is where the market's developing, and we got to see, is like people literally weren't getting through plan sessions, right?
Oh yeah.
It was like
I remember watching the videos, and they'd get through 4 questions and then just stop.
Yeah, or they wouldn't answer a question at all. They would just send it and expect it to do something, and they just like, and this is, we'll see where it develops, but this is where I think the biggest issue with users of AI is like they're training themselves that they can do one sentence and that's it, and that somehow creates good stuff. And anybody that uses AI an extensive amount knows one sentence will never create a good thing. And this is why I also scoff at people that go, oh, you used AI to do that, you didn't do anything. And I'm like, great, so why didn't you do it? Like, if it's that easy to write a sentence, like, do you know the amount of effort I put towards, like, designs and guiding plans and things, and it's like, it's not, yeah, sure, if you have something to carbon copy, it's copy this exactly, but that's basically a really, really detailed plan, right? So
well, then we get to the problem of, is it too much context, right?
Well, if you're literally copying, you can provide it everything, right? So
because
it's just copying, it's just reproducing exactly as is. So
so then it doesn't have to think. It's just like taking one thing and making it be like, if you're like, make this Google Doc, or make this a Word doc out of this Google Doc, is the level of what you're talking about.
Yes. And so then you can, I mean, it still might be too big. If you have a 100-page artifact, it's still 100 page is probably fine, but like, that's the real question there, is the thing you're copying too big? I mean, there's people But even with the copy thing, there's people that made like MCP server to like literally carbon copy websites, and it just composites the website to the AI, and then the AI just like converts it back to like TypeScript. It's like,
Yeah, one of
so
the dudes in our in that accelerator that we're in is making a text to speech thing, and that's what he can consume like any text thing, like no matter how big it is, and that's he's got an MCP set up to do that. He's doing like, you know, like legal briefs and shit that have like thousands of pages and diagrams and stuff in them, and he's got his voice reading this stuff using the MCP to break it all down.
which is interesting, because I don't know that I've met a single person that wants to get 1,000-page brief that's technical lineups read to you.
Yeah, you know what he's saying? A ton of his usage is lawyers who have to go through discovery. I mean, dude said he's got 50,000 users and like 1,000 paying users, so someone's using it. But I think, but what I can imagine is like, if I'm a lawyer who's got like, what do you call it, a several month discovery process, and I don't want to have to go back and read the thing that I know I read a month ago that is important for this context. I want to go to an AI and be like, tell me about the fifth juror that we might want to exclude, and then it goes and reads all the shit and says that that juror is related to this case in this way. But I actually don't know why you would need that. You just do that all with text as well. But,
well, I could see a conversational assistant that does all that, but yeah, just converting large documents to audio, like there's so much legalese and stuff. I don't believe most lawyers or most people would want to, like, imagine you went into an Amazon doc review and someone just read you the document.
Oh, dude, or not even read you the doc, like turned on the speaker and just hit play.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I
could definitely see something like that, like more conversationalist assistant while you're driving too. And so if you're on the way to the office or client meetup or something like that, you could then catch up on what you need to talk about.
Hey, read me everything about Frank, because I'm going to have a meeting with him in 5. Or read me the top 10 things I need to know about Frank to have a meeting with him in 10 minutes, right?
Yeah. That I definitely see. It's just the verbatim transcripts to verb. I mean, if you had a 1,000-page document,
like I don't even know that you could consume that in your head, right? Like,
no, that's what I'm saying. It's
that's
like,
longer than a novel.
Because I got into a conversation with another guy where he's been talking to people, and maybe it was the same guy. Actually, it was that David, the farmer guy. He said that, like, some people believe the future is all verbal, and I was like, it literally can't be. Like, you need a diagram, you need a picture. You're going to explain the diagram, and someone's going to follow that in your head.
That's what he's
ridiculous.
I literally asked him that when we went to lunch, and I was like, so what do you do if there's like a technical diagram? And he's like, yeah, we're working we have a lot of interesting stuff we're doing around how to read someone a diagram. And I was like, that's right. I was like, and it works. And I mean, of course he said yes, but who knows? I can't, like.
So, like, is it possible? Yes. Blind people exist, and blind people traverse websites. And there's been to me, that's what the real market feels like. Because, like screen readers and stuff for blind people, they've gotten better, but they're kind of shitty. Yeah. And yes, blind people can do that because they are forced to do that. And so they have no other option to do that. I just don't believe someone that sees and reads and does stuff all the time is going to want to do that. And yeah, I mean, conversation for sure, like conversation assistant for sure.
I'm even thinking about, like,
sure.
I'm even thinking about like audiobooks now, and the only audiobooks that I've ever finished that I can recall and enjoy are books that I've already read that I wanted to catch up, because there's like a 10th book in the series coming out, and I didn't have time to reread the first 9 books.
Yeah,
I love audiobooks.
What I'll say about people with audiobooks, unless they're sitting around doing nothing, paying full attention, they don't know what fucking happened in the book.
100%. That's what I'm saying. Like I can only.
Everybody I know, everybody I know that listens to audiobooks only, you start talking about the story, and they're like, I don't remember that, and I don't remember that. And it's like, no shit, you were working out while fucking listening to an audiobook. Of course you don't remember it.
I've gotten pretty good when I'm mowing the lawn, when I'm not going around the corners where I need to use a fraction of my brain to go around the corners, then I can listen to the audiobook.
Well, audiobooks are great for like farming and mowing and like mindless driving. But
walking around the
you're
park with
like,
your dog.
yeah, the second you're like running or have to think about anything else, I just like, sure, there's different skill levels, but everybody I know that only reads audio or listens to audiobooks, like, and they do it while they're doing other things, cannot recall the story. So I'm sure there's people that can, but I'm just saying my experience. And I listen to audiobooks because I used to have an hour commute. And guess what? When I wanted to continue the audiobook, I had to sit on the couch and do nothing but listen to the audiobook to
Yeah,
comprehend it.
yeah, 100%, 100%.
And it is a skill that develops over time for sure, but it's also like you're also not trying to be specific, and recall is always harder because you don't visually see names, you don't visually see, like, you're not visually mapping. And so like
I
whenever
mean,
I listen to
I've been calling that frozen bird in League the wrong thing for 10
yeah,
years,
Anivia,
right?
Aniva, what did you call her?
Anivia, or no, yeah, no, Aniva. Anivia is her real
Aniva.
name, and I call her
Yeah,
Aniva. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, well, yeah, it is an interesting thing. Anyways, I do think so. So what I think the future is a mixture of all of it. Is like, obviously, if you're your computer and you can read, you want text. Obviously, you want an assistant to verbally read you off things. Obviously, you want to use the best tool for the job. Like anything that's telling you there's one way to do things, no matter what, they're just wrong. Like now, that's different than a business providing a service for $20 a month that does a very specific thing. But I actually think I think there's a $1 trillion idea out there that someone will solve, and it will eat all these assistants' lunches like you've never seen.
Oh, we've been talking about this for a while, and I think I think that's actually true of every piece of productivity software, and it might be every piece of software. But when you talk about, I always want to call it ArcForge. I don't know if it's ArcForge or ArcFlow, but you have that thing that you built, and that is a custom SaaS, right? Like that
Right.
replaces some SaaS that you would pay for. I have for those of you who don't know, I do a bunch of agency work as well to help try to fund the company. And I built my own. I got on a call with this guy who said, "Hey," he reached out on LinkedIn and he said, "Hey, I have a BDR business development rep business, where we'll file all of the Upwork stuff for you, and we use AI to write all the proposals, and we have a couple skills." I got on a call with the guy and talked to him for a few minutes, and at the end of the call, he was like, "Great, so just go like sign up for the website, and I'll give you a code." And it turned out the guy just has like a tool that does all this stuff. So I went and I signed up and I looked at it, and I just went to Claude and I was like, "Claude, I need a tool that does these like 5 things." And now I just like have it. And I just like every week it pulls 500 new leads from like, local small businesses and other agencies and shit. And it emails them, right? And then it starts putting in bids and stuff. And like, I think that's where software is going to go. Like, I don't need to go pay $20 a month I just tell Claude to do it.
So right now there's a bunch of AI slop as a business, and that will disappear. I actually consider like Rosebud and some of those companies AI slop. I mean, I know they started before AI, but like for as much money as they've gotten and as long as they've been around, it's just very terrible software. And that I think will not survive, because if you can go pay someone for terrible software, or you can do your own terrible software, of course you're going to do your own terrible software. But I do believe I don't think, even if AI gets fucking immaculate at coding, I don't think it's going to magically just pump out like really good products. Now for simple things, it's going to be great. Like there's going to be no reason you need to go, like I had like a WoW calculator that I hooked up like the TSM and stuff, and just auto did some stuff, and it vibe coded that in like 10 minutes, right? Like, and in the past that might have been a business you could resell. So there's definitely things like that. But the more complex problems you get, it's just like most people wouldn't be able. This is why Lovable exists. Most people wouldn't even be able to figure out how to like get their app deployed or something if they needed it on the internet, right? Or a database, like manage a database, like it's so easy to break that stuff that and like we have a policy where the AI is not allowed to touch prod database, because the AI will just delete your prod database.
Delete everything.
And like, what are you gonna do? Like, hopefully you got backups, but oh wait, you don't know anything about tech, so
you definitely don't have backups, right?
Yeah, ours are a day old, so sorry if something happens to ours.
Well, I mean, like even
money
like
there, but
even me, who again, I'm not technical, by the way, guys. I'm the business marketing guy in this trio, but I understand GitHub. and I understand what GitHub is, and I understand what Git is. But right now, as we sit here, if you held a gun to my head and said, "Go restore your project from Git," you have to kill me. Like I would have to spend hours going and figuring out how to do that in the way that you're describing it, right? Like I can ask Makko to restore stuff from Git for me, and I can ask Claude to restore stuff from Git for me. But if I had to actually just go into Git and figure out how to roll back something, I would be fucking lost.
Right. Yep. I mean, even if you had to do a PR or actually
I don't even know what PR means. I know it means that there's code that happens, but yeah.
Yeah, and so like all these things are important, and AI is going to keep getting smarter, of course, but like extend that now to, and because these are the skills that are really going to matter, extend that now to like what's a good UI, like what's a good workflow, what buttons should be here, what features should be here. You know, you start going down the list, and it's the same thing for games, right? Like this is why I hound on game design docs so much, is like you don't organically get to like a really fun game. You gotta think about it. Yeah, you gotta like, you have to be intentional. You gotta think about it. You can't just keep going, AI make the game fun. AI make the game fun. That's just not
well. And
like,
it's
not how
crazy?
the creative world works.
When you say that, I think that is actually like when I say the death of SaaS, that's what I mean. Because like your perspective of SaaS is dramatically different than mine, right? Because the software as a service that you use is like for people like you. But I think about outreach and like even Salesforce. Salesforce has a lot of
they got a lot of
stuff happening, but like a large portion of their inventory, product catalog, whatever you want to call it, is just like send automated emails in a very organized way, right? Like if you don't have millions of customers,
but how are you sending an email?
That's what I'm saying. If you don't, you need Salesforce to get millions of customers.
No. Just functionally, how do you send an email? So if you can send it from your Gmail account, yes. Like if you're automating it to click UI and send it through your Gmail, but like literally, like how do you send an email?
Well, that's like I did this last night with Claude. That's what I'm saying. Like I'm building this stupid fucking game on TikTok. I'm building one of those like a Farmville game on TikTok, and I asked Claude for a feedback button. And I needed people to be able to email me and to automatically send emails back. And so I worked through it. I just went in and I didn't do it, but I went and set up with Cursor and Claude a little email. I call it a server, I guess, but on one of my websites that I own. And so it's just doing all that now. But that's what I mean. Like I don't need to go pay Salesforce to do that, right?
For one small thing. So, and I do agree, like at the micro level, when you're you'll be able to save money.
And we wouldn't to bring it back to what you're saying, which I agree with. We wouldn't do that for Makko, right? Like we would not do that thing I just said for Makko, but we probably, not the thing that I made, but at least 6 months ago, I would have advocated if we had someone that wasn't you that could have done something like that when we had a couple thousand customers. If we felt like that was super valuable, I would totally have just vibe coded that instead of paying $100-$200 a month, right?
Sure. And for really small startups, I think that will be the appropriate route. But like some of the people one of the people at the incubator, right? He like started talking shit on Vercel because he's like, I don't need anything other than Supabase. He doesn't even know what he's saying, right? Literally all he knows is that there is this thing called Supabase, and it was easier for the AI to work with it. He doesn't know about why you would choose either one. He doesn't know about what you need to do when you have more than 5 users on at a time. He doesn't know about cost analysis. He doesn't so yes, you have 0 customers. That's what you do. And so that will be very, very, very helpful for a lot of startups. Same thing with email. What about your email rules? What about not getting spammed? What about there's so many things you pay for a service, and paying them, when you're sending out 10,000 emails a month, paying them $50 for that is useful, because otherwise your account's going to get banned from every email provider.
Well, and you're not going to deliver anything. Yeah. But we're pretty advanced for a startup at this point, and we're not sending nearly 10,000 emails a month. Right. And I don't think we will for a while. No, are we? Well, we send the newsletter. Yeah. But if we weren't, that's what I mean. Like if we weren't sending the newsletter, which we don't do.
But even automated follow-up, like a dev vibe coding or a non-dev vibe coding automated follow-up without a service, might work for a week. That's the other thing, is this is the thing non-software people don't understand about services. If it's a service that needs to be live and needs to run, what happens when it breaks?
Oh, that's what Ben's doing, the integrations guy.
Yeah.
From the sorry, real quick but you brought the guy from the incubator. It's a really funny story.
I gotta head out to my appointment.
Oh, that's right.
But yep.
Get out of here,
a little
dude.
bit early. Yep. I'll see you.
Sorry, man. I forgot you had to get out of here early. I should let you go 10 minutes ago.
No, you're good.
So that guy, I was sitting next to that guy all day yesterday. I'm not gonna say his name. I'm not gonna say what he's building, but I was sitting next to that guy all day yesterday, and he spent at the beginning of these things. You spend like 10-15 minutes talking about how like your last month is gone and just catching up with people. And he was showing me this thing that he'd built, and it was his dashboard, like just like our dashboard. You got users signed up and usage and stuff. And he was talking about how proud he was that he had figured out how to be HIPAA compliant. And at the same time, while he was saying, while the words were coming out of his mouth, he was showing me a dashboard that had name, email, and last X therapy sessions, like last 5 therapy sessions, last 10 therapy sessions, and like what they were at. It's a stress relief app, right? And like what they were asking, right? It's like, oh, my wife's leaving me, and I'm like, oh, I didn't say anything because I wasn't trying to be a jerk, but I'm like, there's no way that you're showing me this and you know what HIPAA means. There's just no, because like, right? There's just no way.
Well, and I think this is what's gonna. So we talked about all the scams and stuff earlier. I think so. There's another question of who's liable for the AI being wrong. You are. The AI is not liable for being wrong. That's like asking Google or Stack Overflow or whatever, and them giving you a wrong answer, and then you doing something with your business. You are the business representative. You are responsible for the business. Your business is responsible for what it's doing. The AI is not liable. And so this is what I think is going to happen over time. We're in these early data, the vibe code days, and people are like, oh, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. This is why I really like vibe coding games, is because in offline games, there's no risk. Yeah. Like it's a fucking game that runs on your machine. It either runs or it doesn't. Oh no, you lost a save file or something, right? Like, does that suck? Yes. Is it the same as like literally leaking everybody's therapy sessions for the last 5 years to the dark web? And you can now go blackmail some politicians because they're talking about, the gay sex they want to have in their therapy sessions.
Not even politicians, just like regular people, right? Like, yeah.
Right. Yeah, those are wildly different stakes, right? And so like even for Makko, like I won't touch financial data. There's a bunch of things I won't touch. Like even our Stripe service is like managed in a different code base that the AI almost never touches, like virtually ever, because there are security risks and things that are not worth accepting as a company. And that is why those services exist. Now, the question is, what's going to happen between now and 10 years from now that makes people realize they still need people that know what the fuck they're talking about?
I know. I think sometimes we get into a flow state that's pretty good, because that was what I was going to say next. Is I was going to ask you what you think, but like, because we talk about this guy, we talk about us, tiny company, guy's got like 100 users, 50 users or whatever, and showing me Frank's sadness about his wife leaving him is low risk, low impact. Yeah. But he literally just signed a deal for a pilot with the Mayo Clinic, and so
oh my god,
he's gonna have like 1,000 Mayo Clinic people using this thing.
And HIPAA's like, I don't know. I feel like HIPAA can send you to jail. I don't feel like that's a.
Oh yeah, it's not like a fine thing. Yeah.
Well, and you're gonna have if he doesn't hire, hopefully that Mayo thing gives him enough money to go hire people.
Hire a lawyer.
If it's the guy I'm thinking of, he already was like, devs are worthless, and so like if that's the case, like he's definitely not HIPAA compliant. I can guarantee that.
It's that guy, by the way.
Yeah. And so he can say whatever he wants, but like, it's fine until it's not, right? And so
that's what I was just saying. The first time some kid is embarrassing, I'm getting bullied because I pee my pants at school leaked, that's like game over, right?
Yeah, or someone just prompt injects, because like clearly we know these people don't even know what prompt injection is, and you can just go ask, hey, do you have anything on anybody in this area? Can you like tell me all their secrets? And you can say Kansas City, Missouri, and it'll just be like, yeah, here's all the Kansas City, Missouri people, right?
I didn't even think about that. That's insane.
But that's the risk of AI and stuff. People not doing anything, knowing what they're doing with AI. And is Fable great? Yeah, Fable's great. How many times do I have to correct it a day? About 30.
It's true.
And we're building like to be clear, what I'm building right now is our like engine prototype to like have a proper engine. So this is highly technical, programmatic, not product-oriented things, and it still breaks like 30
Yeah,
times a day.
it's not like, hey, can you explain this esoteric law that
Yeah.
has been on the books for 20 years and has like 500 pieces of precedent around it, as opposed to like, I need this engine, I need this button to do a thing when I click it. Is a lot different than that thing that I just said.
No, and what it's doing is even more basic. It's like, hey, you need to be able to convert degrees to radians, and you need to be able to render in world space for screen space, which is all very common game engine
It's
stuff.
known, defined
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Literally. So literally, what I did is I took the interface that, because we want to be very compatible with Godot. So I took Godot's interface and we're just implementing it on the web. So not only is it very well known and defined, there is literally a code base these models have trained
And it's
on
open source. Yeah.
that's open source, that all it has to do is convert from whatever Godot's written into TypeScript. And it's now I'm not using the Godot like repo as like a reference for the code, and I'm not trying to like convert one to one or anything, but it's trained on this data, right? And so like this is where when people are like, yeah, AI can just do everything, I'm like, you're fucking crazy, man, right? And of course, you know, this same guy, he's like, yeah, but I'm better at design and all this stuff than it ever is, because of course, if it's your own pillar, it's safe.
Yeah, if it's your domain expertise, right?
Yeah, if it's your own pillar, it's safe. If it's someone else's, oh, they're fucking worthless. Now, what it does fully mean is it fully means someone that wants to get their hands dirty and learn a little bit and get into it is going to be able to do stuff and more stuff than they ever would have been able to do before. And that's great. Like,
yeah, I'm the example of that. Like, this company exists because I was able to make a bullshit prototype in Lovable that I would have never have been able to create without like never in a million years. There's no universe where I build the thing that I built without Lovable. No universe.
Right. Well, and that adds an immense amount of value. And with Fable, would it have the prototype been nearly as bad as it was? No.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
Because you did a lot of that with like Claude 3, 7, and 4, and we have come a long way since those days. Mainly, Fable is not stupid, but you also probably wouldn't be using Fable. You'd be using Opus. Well, Opus 5, there's every single fucking model release, there's some contingency online that's like, this model's way worse than 2 models ago, right? It does this wrong, or it does, whatever. So I think we will see more specialized models as time goes on, but outside of that, it's just, I think you need people to guide it. Even you even said you got like a 40-page document for this design document.
Oh yeah.
We all know that's bad. So if AI is solving world hunger, why can't it write a fucking document that we can read?
It's true. That's great.
I mean, I'm dead serious. Like no joke there. Like,
yeah.
Like, it sounds ridiculous, but why doesn't AI know what it needs? Like literally, and you can just pose the question differently. You can say, like, I'll say things like, you know how an LLM works. You are an LLM. Make sure that you're aligned with the current model training, and it will still have to go research the current model training because it doesn't know. So then it'll go do like a research task. It'll figure out like what humans have figured out, most importantly, right? Because where does data on the internet come from? The good data from humans. So, for example, where is all these workflows I'm talking about coming from? The reason I can't go show you is because like I'm creating these over the course of like the last year in my own experience, and it's literally an emerging market. So like, we're not just talking about what have game devs done for years. We're talking about what do you need to do with AI, right? So it's not one-to-one. We can learn from what's been done, but we also have to learn about what AIs do. Well,
would you call it like is it like a new version or like an evolution of the acronym you used earlier that I'm going to do, Rod, the SDCLL?
SLDs, software development lifecycle, SDLC. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So it's basically an iteration. So like the SDLC is not changing that much. It's compressing a ton. And because remember, LLMs are trained on current SDLCs, right? Like they're trained on Scrum, they're trained on Kanban, they're trained on, Wild West vibes, because that's always existed. It's not like Wild West vibes. That's how startups did shit.
The first Doom game was distributed on a CD that they literally mailed people for free, or not a CD, a fucking floppy disk. They mailed people.
Yeah, and so like that's what LLMs are trained on. So it's still like similar, and what's worked for humans works for AI most of the time. So you can still learn from the past, but like there's whole organizations that have funding just to research this stuff. And what's hilarious is like this report came out the other day that it was like, oh, GPT does like 30% better if you counter review it with Opus. But Opus doesn't do any better if you counter review it with GPT. I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And I like clicked into the report and the findings. It was like GPT 5.2 and Opus 4.
So they were the report was comparing like 2 models ago.
Yeah, like ages ago. So it's like, okay, so this is why a lot of YouTubers now are saying you don't need to stay current. You don't need to stay current because it is an emerging market. We don't know where it's going to land. That is absolutely true. So it's exhausting to stay current on all this stuff.
It's not that you don't have to. It's just exhausting. There's a difference between it's hard and you don't have to.
What the point is that you can check back in 6 months and everything's probably going to be different. So if you didn't, it's not intrinsically wrong for most people if you don't know how we got from point A to point B. If you want to be emerging and you want to be an industry leader and you want to make sure that like you're building something in this era, you have to stay current. If you just want to like see how it affects your career, check back every 6 months, right? So it's
if you're building in the space, I'm saying, right? That's where you gotta.
For me, I have to stay current no matter what. And if I'm like, if a week's gone by where there's some new advancement, like I feel bad that I didn't realize Luna was as cheap as it was because like Luna's way better than Minimax, right? So like we're gonna light up Luna as the default model. It's just really good. It's slower than Minimax, but it's more context efficient. It's cheaper. It's so you can do more things. We got a user that's just bitching about running into context limits, so that'll disappear for him, right? So like there's just really good things that like I didn't for some reason catch that Luna was as smart and cheap as it was, right? And so when I ran a prototype, I was like, oh goddamn, right? So
Luna's the least expensive because it's
the
moon.
So
Earth,
it's the cheap. Sun. Yeah, it's the cheap one, but it's very good for how cheap it is. So anyways, there's just a lot going on. I always say we don't know where it's going to go. What I can tell you is what currently works for the methodology in today's world, right? Because like even with the Opus 5 release, Anthropic released all this new guidance on like trimming down your system prompts and not providing too much instruction. And now there's a bunch of stuff the models understand. Well, what's interesting about that, and they cut out for Opus 5, they cut out a ton of stuff for Claude Code, like the system prompts. They were able to cut like 50% of it, which is awesome because that's less context pollution. But I found this out with like Gemini 3 and 2.5. Like Gemini specifically, if you provided too many instructions, it like did worse. And so like we had to redo our system prompts to work with Gemini a long time ago. So we like re-reviewed all our system prompts, and it was like, because Anthropic released this tool, you can check stuff and it's like, no, you're good. Right. So like that's what staying on the cutting edge does for you is like, but some people still were working with their like Claude 4 system prompts or Claude 3.7 system prompts they developed a year and a half ago, and they're like, it's worked, it's going to keep working. And that is not true, right? Like, and I think Anthropic just used Opus 5 as an opportunity to tout something that's been here for 7 months.
It was like a marketing thing rather than an actual like we made a new
Or they finally got to cleaning up their system prompts. They finally prioritized it and tested it. And they're like, oh, hey, guys, we can use this as a marketing gimmick to say Opus 5, like it lined up with Opus 5, because you would release that with a new model, right? Like you wouldn't want to break all the other existing models. So they finally just probably got to the work to clean up their system prompts, which has probably been good since Opus 4.5. They could have done it, right? And so like they cleaned it all up and they rolled it out with Opus 5, and the marketing's like, yeah, Opus 5 is so smart that it now doesn't need these complex system prompts.
It wasn't actually, it wasn't actually Opus. Yeah. It was like underlying things that actually made it better.
But since Kimi K26 and Gemini 3 and all those things in Makko, we simplified our prompts a while ago. Because it is true, we had a bunch of hacks. Even 6 months ago, we had a bunch of hacks for the models.
Wait one second, I'll be right back, Jeremy, when we finish.
Yeah, we had a bunch of hacks for the models we supported where we had to do weird things like inject messages that said like, hey, you need to keep working, and hey, don't forget your original ask. So we had a bunch of random shit we had to do that we could finally delete, which is why we're constantly improving models. So it is a fun world out there. All right. Well, so real quick, I think we got 5 minutes. I will go over off the top of my head what released this week. I have demos. I mean, we don't really have like a ton of demos, but there is there is a questing system you'll notice when you log in. And that's mainly for new users, but we will be adding quests over time. We're exploring the idea of adding like weekly quests for paid subscribers, things like that. And the quests just basically are repeatable behaviors, tutorials. It's a fun way to do tutorials, and then it gives you credits at the end. So it's mainly for new users because a lot of new users have complained about that. We've done some. Brandon went through, did a bunch of bug fixes we talked about last week. So just links in certain places. You can generate multiple images and reference sheets at the same time if you're a paid user now. We had enabled that for animations a while back.
That's really exciting. It's changed my workflow dramatically.
Yeah,
I also spend a lot more money now, but
yeah,
I
you're gonna
love
spend
it.
a lot more money now. I still disable for free users. For users one at a time. It's an upgrade thing. We did add the resize tool to the AI agent. That's one of the tutorials. We added annotations. It might have been in there last week. I forget exactly when all this stuff released, but the quests kind of take you through some of those things. It's also a little weird because they're retroactive, so you won't get an entire quest experience if you
Like the
already did
quests will
them.
just be will they be complete and you can
Yeah,
claim
they'll
them, or
be
they're just not
complete.
there? Yeah.
No, yeah. Yeah, so anytime we add a quest, we'll always enable it
Like
for
backdated or
existing
whatever.
users. Yeah, like we'll just fill in the blanks when you log in, and so yeah, so then what we're working on is I'm still working on New Game Plus, which is our engine prototype, um getting to a point where I'll start testing and refining it. I'm debating on how to release it, but I'm debating releasing it to paid users as like a beta for a couple weeks, see if we can't get people to actually use it because I don't want to drive free users to it if it's horribly broken. And so
That's fair.
we might call on some of our stream guys and Discord guys to go play with it and give some credits out to play with it a little bit. But yeah, that's pretty much that's the status update. I'm sure there's some other stuff. Brandon probably had some other things that I missed, but Brandon's been working on some consistency bugs. Banana has been giving us hell. I've been talking to OpenAI, and we're trying to get Azure to give us credits, and AWS is being a bitch. Fucking hate AWS at this point. I can't believe AWS is like they
As
just throw money at people and then hope they forget and forgive. Because AWS just ran. So props to Google. Google's been great. They don't present any problems to us. They work with us. They respond to us. AWS just like one day like blocked all our cloud access and like new model access and our account rep, and nobody can figure out why. And apparently I opened a ticket and they basically said, get fucked. You're not good enough to use our product. And I was like, cool.
That's so brutal.
So anyways, we're trying to roll that into Azure and some stuff because the credits are a big deal for a company our size because AI is expensive, and we can pass that along to our customers, give a better experience for the time being, the more we can get. So I've been focusing on that quite a bit. We've been focusing on redoing our model lineup to mostly get on things we have credits for, which is just it's a product runway type thing. It's financial, it's fun business stuff. So uh, some of that stuff's been taking my time, and yeah. And then we've been working on some products for some clients too. So so you'll see, at a certain point, we've been around for almost a year now from inception, and you'll see that like as companies enter certain stages, you got to start raising money or doing things, and we're trying to avoid raising money because
We want it all to be ours.
yeah, and more
I don't want
so,
people telling me what to do.
yeah, that's it. That's it right there. I don't care if it's all mine, but I do care. The VCs we talk to are basically like, yeah, you don't have to worry about making a good product. Just throw shit against the wall and see what sticks, which is not,
That doesn't feel good.
yeah, it's not a way I like to build products. I like to build products that I want to use, not that.
I would have to convince someone dumber than me to use.
Yeah. Or and actually, like if you go look at like Rosebud and some of our competitors, I mean, I think they'll be gone in 5 years for sure, because that's all they've done is they're not trying to build products people want to use. They're trying to build products that, get eyes on glass to get more VCs to, so they throw a lot of free compute and a lot of vibe code your game, and they don't care about, like, we want to see all our customers releasing games on Steams and sites that people are playing. We want, our vision is like, all you guys are making games that at least if you publish on our site,
Your friends will want to come play.
yeah, they'll come play. We want to do affiliates and payouts and things in the future. Like, we want to make our site a place where you can monetize your game or take it to Steam easily or do whatever, right? Like, that's our vision for the future. We don't really want, like, there's this remix button on a lot of our competitors. It was one of the first things I got rid of, which was basically copy someone else's game, aka steal it. And I was like, this is wild. Like, why?
This is the thing that people hate about AI.
Yeah,
This is it.
yeah.
This is the thing.
It's like, there's I think there might be a route to remix a game when you have monetization strategies and stuff in place. So, like, a user could opt into that to remix a game, and you get like commissions based on what that game does. Because if, like, some huge streamer wants to remix your game, like, and they go launch to 10 million people, and you spent 50 hours or $2,000 or something over the course of the months making the game, and, like, why should they get to go do it and not monetize you? But at the same time, if you want to give people that option, and maybe 1,000 people remix your game, and now you're getting 1% commissions from all of them, that might be a good option. But I don't really believe in just giving away people's work, especially when it comes to game design and iteration and finding fun.
Yeah, because it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard. Even with AI, it's hard. Like, it's one of those things. Even artists, right? Like, even finding an eye for art and stuff. Yes, the technical aspect of drawing a character is easier these days. Figuring out what's wrong with the character, what looks good, what sort of formatting you need in a game, all that stuff. That's all still hard, right? Like, and it's the technical artists that are the best at it. That's the one. It's the one section of the community I don't quite understand. It's like maybe more people than I thought fell in love with the mechanics of drawing a thing more so than the mechanics of creating, because AI once again takes shortcuts a lot of mechanics of creation, but you lose a lot of the technical thing. However, people that are technically good at it still are drastically better at it, and I think that will continue. Like,
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, I think Sector Scavengers is a great example of that, right? Like, I think if most people sat down and talked to you and me for an hour without working with us ever, I mean, even just like looking at us and like, look at what I'm wearing versus what you're wearing and what I look like versus what you look like. I'm all yacked up with sleeves everywhere. Like, I think most people would look at us and be like, oh, Tony's probably the one that gets like aesthetic and how things fit together well. And Jeremy's probably the guy that like deeply understands technology and cares less about that. Like, I strongly believe that, again, just like the way that we talk and interact with people, that is the impression they would walk away with. And it, like, couldn't be further from the truth, right? Like, I am ass at aesthetic and the way like art and contrast and colors should go together. Jeremy's great at it. And I think that's where, we if you've been watching the whole time, Jeremy and I went back and forth on some design stuff earlier, but I think we have like that same level of call it gap or distance between what good looks like and where I start with art as we do with like technology or design. And that is a I don't know that you can. Maybe you can. Maybe I guess maybe anything's learnable, but I don't know that anyone can learn that. Like, it just feels like that is a thing that like you're good at. You have an eye, or
there's theory of music, theory of art. So one of the music is funny because if you go study music, so yeah, and for context, I grew up in the arts, I grew up in sciences, I grew up in everything. So uh, if you whether it's learnable or not as a 40-year-old, I don't know. It's definitely learnable when you immerse yourself as a child and you develop your brain.
Sure. Sorry, that's what. Yes, that's what I think. I think any human can learn anything.
All children should be in the arts, and they should be in the sciences. From most important thing, they'll learn to read eventually. Go make them learn the piano, make them learn an instrument, make them do marching band, make them. I am a believer in do everything. Make them play sports. There's so much you can learn from each and everything. A lot of Asian parents get this partially right, but
the dragon parent, yeah.
Yeah, but they do, you got to do piano, you got to do tennis, you got to do ping pong, whatever it is, right? You got to get good grades. You got to play, violin, all the things. And so
and you don't meet many of those people that aren't intrinsically broken that are not doing okay, right? Like
yes,
most of those people who grew up like that, they're either not doing okay because of something that is completely unrelated, like a deep-seated mental issue or trauma that they experience, or they're doing okay.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And like, sure, some of them have trauma, but we all have trauma. So I'd rather have trauma from my parents made me be an awesome human than have trauma from I grew up and my parents didn't make me learn to do anything and now I'm fucking worthless as an adult, right? Like those are completely different things. And that's what's funny to me is like it's like even drawing and stuff. Spent a large several years of my life drawing, and then you phase out of it. You find because humans can only spend so much time doing stuff, and this is why AI excites me as like an all arounder. It's like if you want to go do anything with your body, surf, play basketball, anything, and you also want to do all these technical things, like it's literally impossible for a single human to do that. And I'm greedy, and I want to do everything I want to do, right? Like that's the end of it is like I want to do the things I want to do. And so different people have different things they want to do, but that's why AI is so exciting to me is it lets me do not everything, but a lot of things I want to do. So but I don't think experts in spaces will be different. Like if you go get an actual UX designer, Tony knows this. I've been like, we need a UX person.
We need a UX designer so bad.
We need a UX person. And it's not because I can't create usable UX, but like the amount of thought and decision making and value there is in making sure every user experience is super streamlined and good. Like even when I was building the Quest system, I was like, so there's a bunch of like random minor fixes. Like our publish page is completely redone now because like I did the Quest for publish and I was like, bro, I don't want to push every single user to like this UI and flow. That's fucking terrible. And it's like legacy from a long time ago. And we just never redid it because it hasn't been a priority. And I was like, I'm like literally forcing every user to this now. It's like, it's got to be better. Is it perfect? No. Is it a better playing a game page now? Yes.
100%.
And there were like 10 things like that where.
Oh yeah. Well, like, I mean, just the simplest thing that I jumped out to me was like, just the like make your own button is like from a business perspective, probably the most important thing on that fucking page that just wasn't there, right? It's like, someone brought you to the game, to the website to play a game. Ostensibly, you might want to do that as well. Like, here's a button to do that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And before we like were plastering our logo and our footer and all this weird stuff. And it's like, that stuff doesn't matter. Like people want to play the game first and foremost. But anyways, a UX person, that is all they would think about. They'd be using the site. They'd be like, this is terrible. This is a problem. And then they wouldn't just be using opinions. For me, it's like, I go to it. I've used a shit ton of websites my whole life. And I'm like, this feels wrong. And then I start brainstorming with Claude and then I'll say, try this. No, that feels wrong. Try this. That feels wrong. Try this. So it's more of like a prototyping thing, but a UX person will be able to one, shortcut that tremendous amount because that's all they've done. And two, they can actually user test it. They have time to user test it. They can go stress test it. They can even bypass user tests to a certain degree because they've done 1,000 user tests. So they know how users react to different things. It's very similar to me in programming is I don't have to like experiment with architectures and stuff. The AI starts doing something like, no, that's a bad idea. Don't do it. Do this instead.
Like you don't need to like I think that again, going back to like the difference in humans using the tools, right? Like knowing, I think you said this before too, like knowing your limitations or knowing what you're good at or whatever is like super important because like you don't need that explanation, but like I do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I need that shit.
Yeah. And this is where as we develop, like the goal is to get less and less needing to be an expert. Right now, you need to know how to prompt for images. Right now, you need to know how to prompt for making a game. Will vibing work? Will natural language work? Absolutely.
But it's going to take a lot longer. It's going to be a lot harder. And yeah, like I mean, I always look at the user we have that's making the Minecraft Pokemon game. Like we have a dude who's made Minecraft in Makko. but he spends. It's got to be more than 40 hours a week making this thing in Makko. There's if it's an hour, he's spending 40 hours a
for
week on it.
context, he spends probably in our LLM compute, he probably spends more than all our other users
combined. Yeah. But I mean, that's the if you're someone like me and not like Jeremy, that is the journey that you should be expecting to go on, something like that.
Yeah, and then so my background is in general software and hobbyist game dev. And so, like, I guarantee you, if we had a proper, because I actually don't want a corporate indie game designer or dev on the team, but I would love like a proper indie game dev, like
someone who's
Stardew Valley or something, right? Like,
yes.
You've launched and done a real thing. Like, that would be immensely valuable, because that's really what we're trying to replicate. And I believe big business will follow closer to startups and indies over time, because that is the only way with AI they'll be able to compete, is because you can't have 25 people doing something that 3 people could do.
100%.
Like, in the that is one thing with AI that is absolutely true. We don't know how to impact the economy. I already said I want to be greedy. I want to do everything. But if I can do everything, that also means I don't need 20 people and $5 million to pay salaries for 20 people. I also don't have $5 million to pay 20 people. So it may not matter, right? That's why we don't know if it impacts the economy. I don't have the money to pay 20 people. So whether I'm using AI to do the shit or not has no impact on those 20 people. The only difference is I might be able to do something I can make money and live my life doing something I actually want to do, right? And that's like kind of the goal. I think that's the goal for humanity. That's always been the goal in my mind, is like we create a society where humans can do what they want to do.
And yeah, without having to worry about whether or not doing what they want to do is going to cost them their kill them, or not even like as drastic as kill them, but like put them in a place where like they don't want to, they're not enjoying their life in society, right?
Sure, but like we're at a point where that's quite literally true, right? Because like I don't have insurance right now.
I guess that's true, right? Yeah.
Like I don't have health insurance because we live in the fucking US is fucking ass backwards. So I'm trying to start a company, giving my all, working my ass off, trying to do something, and I don't have health insurance because fuck me, right? Because like I'm not working for the man, right? And so quite literally,
I agree with that. Yeah.
It quite literally, it is like kill you, because like, okay, Tony, like if you don't make any money in the next 6 months to a year,
game over.
Yeah, you're game over. Like you cannot function in society without working for the man. Like and so I think AI will help move that, and I hope it will. I actually think it's really funny because like there's one slice of the pie where people are like, oh my God, AI is going to end any competition or anything. And Amazon is going to have access to the hyper super intelligent AI, and everybody else is going to have access to the shitty AI. Well, go look at the GPT lineup, guys. Like, yes, the better models are better, but look at GPT, Sol, Luna, and Terra. Like, Luna is within like 2 percentage points of Sol in the benchmarks. And it is like 100th cheaper, 1,000. I don't actually even know. It's like drastically cheaper. So like, yes, you still have to pay to play. Yes, there's still premium. Yes, these companies are going to get big, are the best thing. But do you honestly believe no one's going to come in and disrupt that? Like, what about China? What about all their models?
I actually don't believe that the big companies are going to get there. I mean, we have observations of this right now, right?
Yes.
Like we talked at the beginning of the Amazon sucks at this stuff now, right? Like distributed systems, new tech, they suck at it. It's horrible. And Google, I think last episode, you were like, yeah, Google just gave up on being the best and they're just trying to be the fastest now, right? Like I think that's what's going to happen, because like, yeah, like to your point, I think best is going to be commoditized. Like, and like, unless we enter with a true trade war with China, and not just because it's not, we say China, but it's China, it's Western. There's a bunch of Western Europe models too, right?
Yes.
That are gonna,
right.
It's, so like,
it's not
unless
just
we start
China,
embargoing
literally
like everyone,
everybody.
right? Yeah, like because it's not like some dude like it, like in a world where we said, okay, you can't use, but American people can't use any Chinese models, right? Someone in fucking France or Belgium or Switzerland
will
is just going to go, well, and yeah, to your point, well, they won't even know. They'll just make their own. Right? They'll
Well,
be
they'll
like,
use
hey,
that.
go.
They'll use the Chinese
Yeah.
models to make their own, and
Yeah,
then
it'll
yeah,
be
you
like,
can
we'll
use
sell it to
theirs.
us, right? Yeah.
Uh,
And it'll be Blimmy instead of Kimmy or whatever, right? And
Yeah.
I like that. That's where all this, in a world where the tech can truly be commoditized, I believe that that's what becomes indefensible, right? Just because anyone can at that
Well,
point, anyone can do it.
think about it like this. Like, so, you know, when CPUs and we're in the CPU race and all this stuff, and even the GPU race now, it was like the companies that were leading the charge in the race got ridiculously wealthy. And then what happened? It got commoditized with very little competition, actually. Because the reality is once you get good enough, people aren't going to rebuy over and over and over. That's what happened like CPUs and everything, right? Is like once your CPUs got good enough, you only replace them 5 to 10 years.
100%. I remember when I was growing up, it was 2 years. You had to replace if you were going to build a custom computer to do what you did. What?
Phones right now.
Phones, exactly, right? Like, and phones, I think, are a little more planned obsolescence, but like unless like the phone is just, I guess that's not true though. I've had this thing for years, and
I've had mine now
I
for 3.5 years. 3.5 years, it basically works the same. Because I bought a top of the line one 3.5 years ago, works the same.
Yeah, and so like it's just those timelines are going to keep getting longer, and you can't the solution for AI can't just be like make it work worse. And move to the next one forever, right? Like that's just gonna at one point someone's gonna figure out they just should offer it cheaper and the same thing better, right?
Right. Well, and at one point in time, they thought we were close to general intelligence. We're not close to general intelligence, and they thought, the person that solves it is just going to literally own the world, and that's where all this gloom and doom came from. And there's other societal issues, right? Like rightfully so. There's more and more pushback against these massive, massive models. Why? Because they're literally just like accelerating the destruction of the planet. They're accelerating destruction of ecosystems. Well, I just talked about how big Fable was. How small do you think Luna is? Luna probably fits on a single one of those GPUs instead of 25.
Yeah.
So now you have to ask the question, if you can do Luna on a single GPU and it's within 2 to 3 percentage points,
why are you spending
Fable,
1,000 plus times the resources you need?
Yeah, and it starts to become, what does regulation for AI look like? I think it starts to become you must be able to serve X percent. It's like efficiency regulations, right? Like you can't literally just have a supercomputer running an AI for 3 people. Yeah. Like I think from a governmental perspective, that's the only regulation that really makes sense, because like power is provided essentially by public money, and these companies cannot just use unlimited public money to enrich themselves, right?
Well, and they can really fuck up the grid too, not just like the power usage, like the draw.
Well, that's what I mean.
Grid.
Yeah, the grid is funded by public money, and so if they're eating from the grid and upcharging everybody else, and so like,
well, that's what I'm saying, but like not just upcharging everyone else, but like degrading the experience for the residents of the area while charging, right?
Yeah, suddenly, and you'll see shit change real fast if suddenly in Missouri you can't have fucking AC on in 100-degree weather because the AI data centers need to make like you'll see people burning data centers down, like quite literally.
And that's, we were talking to that guy Nate from the investment group we were talking to, and like I really believe that data centers end up underwater in space, like he was talking about with the power, the thermal power
space
plants.
Makes no sense, but maybe water.
You don't think space? You think we can get information back in them?
Space doesn't cool things. There's no reason to be in space.
You told me about that. I forgot. You told me like You
guys all latched on to what Elon said, and then a bunch of scientists came in and were like, "Guys, this is not how this works."
Well, actually, I didn't realize Elon said that.
I
probably read it.
That's where the space thing came from. Was Elon? It's also Elon thinks AI is going to talk a machine language and not human language, which is laughable because the way an LLM is trained is you have training data. What machine code do you have training data
ones and zeros?
on?
You mean machine data?
Yeah, he's like, they're going to just start coding in assembly or ones and zeros binary, and it's going to be magical. And I was like, okay, sure, maybe.
That feels like the general intelligence stuff when it starts teaching itself things. When it get man, but then again,
I don't mean teaching
you have to ask yourself
itself.
like why, right?
I don't mean teaching itself. I mean magically you're going to come in and say, hey, make me a program X, and it's going to somehow be able to translate that to bytecode versus human language. So it's going to take human language and convert it. So if you understand even an inkling of how LLMs work, it makes zero fucking
sense.
I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's like really fucking out there.
How much money do you think he raised saying that though? Had to be hundreds of millions of dollars.
Probably $1 billion, $5 billion.
Crazy.
I mean, he's the ultimate grifter, so it's funny. He grifts. He's like the CEO I've talked about where like I'm like, I feel like you have to throw all morals or just be stupid to do it. Because if you like a lot of what he says either has to be intentionally lying or he's not intelligent enough to understand the problems.
And I don't think he's a dumb guy. I don't think I don't think he's an engineer, but I don't think he's like I don't think he just doesn't understand
he's done enough
right?
programs, been enough around enough people. Or just like Trump, he's got enough yes men around him that when he's like saying ideas, everybody's
crazy
like,
shit.
yeah,
They're
dude,
like, yeah, absolutely.
That's so good. That's like totally viable, or that's totally good. And if you tell him, and if you tell him no, he like fires you. I could see that too. But like I don't think he's stupid. I just think he gets like ideas in his head and it's gonna happen no matter what, because what has he actually implemented since PayPal, right? Like it's you get a bunch of people in the room, but this is what VCs want from CEOs, right? You get a bunch of people in the room, you promise the fucking galaxy, and then you give them a house, right?
Yes.
Like, and that's what Elon does. And that's what I've struggled with personally as like trying to be a CEO is like I feel like I'm just lying to people because I know it's not viable. When I
was in crypto, we used to call it selling them the Ferrari and then convincing them that the Ferrari was actually a spaceship. Like that was the motion in crypto.
Yeah, which is true. You're basically it's just a bunch of manipulation tactics to try and scam people out. I mean, it's more akin to scam than it is business, right? Like but that is unfortunately the current startup world. I mean,
but
Elon's
I feel like
we
feel like it's more akin to scam than business. But I think what we're actually saying is that like if you not even it like any sort of material fundraising, at least in Western culture, it is actually predicated not on the idea, the quality of the team, but more your ability to pull rabbits out of hats and know rich people, right?
Yeah, you know rich people, you know what to say to convince them. And I will say, to give these people credit, is like their narrative is super crisp and consistent.
Oh yeah,
always. They're very, very good at that, and
Trump is too. By the way, like Trump is not a smart guy, but he's great at that. He repeats the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah, if you're a scammer, that's like your top talent, right?
Yes, 100%, 100%.
So it's kind of one of those things where, like, yes, they're very good at it. That is what I can learn from it, and I can be better at that. But it's just a thing that it's like.
Well, even again, I won't say his name, but even one of the guys that is our advisor, like one of our advisor's brothers is he's a very moral person. He's a great guy. He has a business that teaches kids how to code, and he makes a ton of money doing that. But he's like a very, very good human being. And even when we talked to him the first time, he was like, when you're talking to the investors, tell them whatever they want to hear, and then when you need to change, if they're good investors, they'll go with you. So I mean, he wasn't like, tell them whatever they want to hear, fuck them. But even this guy, who I like, I think he's a better person than me, was like, tell these fuckers whatever they want to hear.
Yeah, and this is where, it's an interesting thing, and like basically, I think the investors assume they're being bullshitted, so they assume they're being lied to, which is it's an interesting world. Like it's
well, or some of it is like my understanding, and I haven't been a VC before, but my understanding is some of it is too is like they know and they're okay with it, and they're actually just like passing that along through the system, because at some level, and this is where I'm not in the space enough to really understand this, but I do know that at some level, when you are a VC, your compensation is based not just on how well you do, but like getting it out of the door, like actually just making the investment makes a material difference. And so like a lot of the time, I think what happens is you get the person that is whose incentive is I need to spend the money, and then they're just picking literally the best person that they can sell the reason to spend the money. And it's not like their idea might be like put the engine on the back of the iceberg and sail it to the Middle East to sell water, right? And that's objectively a terrible idea. But if they can go in and sell that to someone.
I think there's got to be, I bet there's two commission avenues in most places. There's getting the money out the door, and then there is return on investment, because there's no way the entire compensation model is just handing money out.
Well, no, I think, but that's what I'm saying. I'm almost positive that when you are in the early stages of your VC career, your bonuses are, did you get the money out the door?
Yeah.
But and then if it doesn't return, you just get fired, right? You only don't get fired
Well,
if like they don't get right.
So if you like, all these people have been at their companies a really long time, and I think part of it is because they're waiting for ROI. And I don't believe these like ultra rich people that move on from VCs move on just because they signed $100 million check and left, right? Like
Yes.
they signed $100 million check and they got $1 billion back on the back end, and then they got a $5 million check, right? Like I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Like otherwise, like why? Because like ROI takes so long. So otherwise, why wouldn't they just sign a ton of checks?
They tell us that all the time. Like, it's 5 to 10 years to get your money back. But that's, I mean, again, like that's what, again, completely different environment because it was crazy. But I know that, like, again, in crypto, the guys I was talking to, and some of these investment guys were in like real investment companies that were just like dabbling in crypto. They were they were telling me that like a lot of this, like some of their strategy was like, get the bonus at the end of the year and move on to the next VC. Right? Like
no,
that was their thing.
And I'm sure that's a strategy. I totally, and like I said, I think there's commissions on both sides. I think
oh yeah, I know that. Like I know the guy. So the lead guy who invested in Shrapnel, or from the VC that invested in Shrapnel, he like lived at the office for the last 3 months I was there because it was going bad. And he thought that it might go well. And I asked him at one point, I was like, hey, why are you here? Like, why, like we are not your biggest portco. We, it's not going well. I was leaving at this point. So like, I was being real transparent. I was like, this isn't going well. You're putting a lot of work in here. And he told me, he's like, yeah, but like, if we can pull this out, it's, it's like millions of dollars from me personally. Like and it wasn't like if it's successful, it was like, if the game like launches, he's going to make a bunch of money. Right.
Well, yeah. And most of the stuff, there's like incentive tiers, and
yes, exactly.
There's no way, there's no way they could say, oh, you either get $1 billion company or you don't. Otherwise, nobody'd be in the industry, right?
100%,
it's like,
yeah.
And so I'm sure it's not like VCs are dumb. Like every single VC we talked to, like every single person was like hyper intelligent, could understand, was like super attentive. And so like, it's not like they're just dumb people out there throwing money around. Like, but it is still interesting to me. It's very interesting to me that they like go after ideas that, it's like almost like they'll go after ideas that you can promise the world and it just happens to be unique. Just because they can imagine that. It's like Freyren. It's like, can they imagine that world? But if you go, like, there was one person that was like, basically like, there's competition in that space, so you can't do that. And I was like, there's competition in every space. Like
I know Amazon, where they tried to put $1 billion into everything and failed. I remember when we were talking about the thing you worked on. What was it called? The launcher.
Yeah,
right.
And we just like games app.
Yeah, just like invented a thing that another company is clearly the entrenched leader in, and said, we're going to throw as much money as we can at this to make it successful. And then just like, it's like, oh yeah, that was a bad idea. We're just not going to do that.
Well, but it wasn't even, they didn't even attempt the idea. We had like 1.5 million monthly active users.
Yeah.
Like people use the app.
Yeah.
Because they got free games and they had to. So they used the app. We just never tried to
monetize it.
Or make money. And there was like this whole 6 month, don't fucking lie, but they
Hello,
everything just like reset.
Oh, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
But yeah, like like they use some firm to like do this like deep analysis of how to make money, and they spent like literally $2 million for them to come back and say, hey, you sell stuff and you do that. And I was like, I read the deck and I was like, what the fuck, guys? You spent $2 million on this? Like, what?
I will say this guy's name because I like him a lot. But there's a guy named Michael Gluck who is the owner of the company that you're talking about that did that research. It was I assume it was the same company we used for Twitch Prime to do the market research stuff. And that guy, I remember when we worked with him for the first time, because it is a valuable experience. Like going through and seeing how your customers react to stuff before it's real is a valuable experience. We did it way too much at Amazon, but this guy, like he exuded used car salesman. Like he was like, I could like feel the oil coming off of him when I was talking to him. And I remember looking at it at one point and being like, listen, Michael, I understand that this is really important what we're doing here, but I have to tell you, like, I find this entire exercise incredibly distasteful. and it's because it wasn't because it was a bad experience. It was absolutely the right stuff to do. Like, you absolutely want to get that feedback, but they charge so much money, and they doll the process. You want to talk about like a sales process that is about wrapping an experience up? That's what that is. Because like they have these nice buildings that they rent in downtown, and you show up. Did you go to any of these, Jeremy?
No, I didn't.
Oh, dude, you show up and they have like it's like a Vegas penthouse spread buffet set up with like, you know, like $30 sandwiches and shit, right? And you do breakfast, lunch, and dinner there, and these people, you know, they interview 20 customers in different groups at a time. But the whole, like, me and you could do the whole thing for like $10,000, right? Like right. Really, right? And the reason that these guys can charge so much though is they go hire 4 PhDs, and then they get the customer base, and then there's no reason not to use them because they're the only people that do it, right? There's like 10 companies that do it, but they all understand they can charge $1 bazillion for it, but the actual task that you're doing is not a fucking $2 million task. It's just not. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and what they did for us was like literally put together a slide deck with some like design artifacts. It was really weird. It's like, we have so many designers at this company. Like, why in the world would you pay?
Why are we paying for this?
Yeah.
Well, and you know what came out of the Twitch Prime one? You know, a couple things came out, but you know, one of the biggest things that came out of the Twitch Prime one was the landing page needs to be a video and nothing else. And our UX guy just fell in love with that piece of feedback and refused to move on. David and I were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. We went out to dinner with Meyer, and he was like, we just couldn't get him off the fucking video idea for a year. And it was like the worst. It was an autoplay video with I'll take ownership of the voiceover, with a female voiceover that was really annoying. And it started with, here's a few things you should know about Twitch Prime. And like people, like we'd show them, people were like, we love your program, but why do you have that video on the landing page? And it came out of that $1 million whatever experience with Twitch Prime.
Yeah, it's all right. Well, it's 2:00.
Oh shit. Let's get out of here. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. If you want more of this, we do this every Wednesday starting at 8:30 a.m. Pacific. If you haven't joined the Discord yet, join the Discord. It's discord.gg/Makko, M-A-K-K-O. We run giveaways and contests every week. You can come make art, make prototypes, share them with us, and we'll pick the best person and give you a $50 Steam gift card. And then we have office hours on Fridays at noon Pacific, and we build the stuff that we just showed here and talk to you guys about what you're building. And then if you ever want feedback or help outside of those times, just tag anyone with Makko in their name in the Discord, and we'll get to you. So thanks again, guys, and we'll talk to you soon.